Welcome in to Check the Mic. Steve Palazzolo, Sam Monson. We're live on YouTube, coming at you from the Antonio Cromartie studio, in part with Huggies, all presented by FanDuel. A monster Wednesday show here, Sam. Of course, we had Black Monday on Monday, and it rolled into Tuesday as well. We've had some firings, a lot of upheaval around the NFL when it comes to head coach openings, coordinator openings. We'll break it all down today.
Yeah, fun show, and the head coaching site carousel is always fun because once you sort of realize that these guys are all just sitting on piles of money once they get fired, it's a lot more fun.
You don't care.
Well, no, I think
you don't care about the, GAs and not GAs, but QC.
Those are the people
coaches.
who feel sorry about it. The head coaches are not. When it's like, man, I feel bad for this head coach getting fired. Don't feel sorry for that guy. He just hit life's jackpot again. He's already doing well being a head coach of an NFL team. He just got paid to go away, paid millions. Someone just rocked up to him and said, you know what? And at the point where you're getting fired, there are probably tensions within the building anyway, right? So that guy's been having a stressful work environment, and someone just came up to him and said, we're going to solve your stressful work environment and give you millions to leave.
In the other part that we're going to try to unpack here, you always, think that I'm soft, that I'm easy to influence during draft season, right? It's like I just believe everything that I read.
Yeah.
This is the inverse, right? Draft season, you get the information ahead of time to sway your thinking. This is the post-mortem when coaches get fired.
Yeah.
There's all the information that comes out. It's
Spin
like,
season.
this was inevitable, right? We knew, this guy was falling asleep during meetings. This guy didn't even show up.
The information
This guy was
wars.
late for work 50 times,
Yeah.
That's why he got fired.
Right. The information wars that follow. Obviously, leaks from either camp being like, well, this is why the guy got let go, and this is why it broke down.
So we gotta break all those all those things down.
From the, of course, unimpeachable sources that are the insiders that would never tweet anything but straight down the line journalistic integrity information.
Mr. Agent, sir, whatever you send me, I will put out into the ether. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Just let me know when the next
Just let me know who you're repping.
Yeah, let me know when the next special teams superstar signs on March 15th. Mm-hmm. All right, let's start it off. So yesterday we did an instant reaction on this. A lot of people did tune in and listen to our instant reactions. But at that point, the Baltimore Ravens job was not available. So we are going to we're going to rank the actual head coaching openings, right? So we needed a nice catchy title, to get you in here. So let's rank them. We have 7 available jobs, right? Which, by the way, the John Harbaugh has been fired, right?
Yes,
by the Ravens. That's the breaking news from yesterday. The tweet from Adam Schefter was that as soon as John Harbaugh got fired, 7 teams reached out. Mm-hmm. There are 7 openings, including the team that already fired him.
Correct.
Which implies that either the Ravens called him back or someone with a head coach is inquiring.
Yeah. Which is not
surprising.
I mean, everyone was reporting that as soon as it became possible or likely that Harbaugh was going to get fired, a whole bunch of people were like, there are teams now who have not fired a head coach who would be interested in John Harbaugh.
Yeah.
Like, that's the kind of candidate that he is. And it's funny, like, you see it, he's kind of in the Mike Tomlin category of like, has it just gone stale? Is it time for a change? Do we just need to freshen it up for the sake of freshening it up? And you can definitely make that argument. Having said that, Ian Hartitz put out the tweet that was like, this is how the last 4 Ravens seasons have ended. And it's like 4 plays from being very successful seasons. You know what I mean? Like, each one of these crazy plays, like, did he, reach it for the end zone, doesn't quite get there. Mark Andrews dropping the ball. Like, they've all these seasons that you're like, wow, that's a disappointing year. It's like 1 play away from being a not disappointing year. And he's had 4 of them stacked up, and you're like, wow, it's time to go, right? And this is where, Sean McDermott is going to be in the same place if they lose in the playoffs when no Mahomes and no Joe Burrow. It's going to be like, have you taken this team as far as you can go? Is it time to go in a different direction? And Matt LaFleur is getting this stuff. We keep talking about this every week. There's craziness surrounding Matt LaFleur. I don't know how much of this is within buildings and how much of this is just fans are insane. That's why they're called fans, from fanatic, i.e. lunatic. The potential, like the expectations are incredibly unrealistic in some circles. And actually, if you're just a good football team that makes the playoffs and are plays away from beating the best teams in the NFL every year, that's probably a pretty good place to be. Like maybe don't, I'm not saying don't change anything, but maybe don't like throw the baby out with the bathwater in these situations. Like, should you fire Harbaugh just because his kicker missed a 44-yard field goal? Probably not. And I'm not saying that was the thing that but that was the straw that broke the camel's back. The kicker makes that kick. Harbaugh's still in the job right now. If they lose next week, would they fire him then? I don't know.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, it's a funny meme, though. The idea that we've been talking about Tomlin.
The goalpost thing?
We've been talking about Tomlin potentially getting fired. And it was Harbaugh. And I don't really believe it came down to the one kick. Obviously,
I mean, I think it did this week, though.
Oh, for this week, right? If they had lost last
one of those,
week,
I think one of those coaches is fired either Monday or Tuesday this week, based off where that kick went.
And as you put out yesterday, right? Tomlin could be, next Tuesday,
right?
If things don't go well on Monday night, if they get smoked again. Yeah, interesting time. So let's start. So John Harbaugh's gotten fired. Let's just start.
Where were you going with that? Did you have a point with that? One team with a coach still in place is calling about Harbaugh?
I mean, somebody put out the point yesterday that I agree with. He's the most coveted coach, and the Ravens will rank number one on our most coveted job list. Yeah. I think both things are true.
Bill Barnwell had that tweet. I was like, the Ravens should hire John Harbaugh. It's the best candidate for the best job.
Best candidate for the best job. So, I mean, I think it's the Dolphins that have called. I think the Dolphins are the team. Because it's like the Dolphins, the Bucs. Like there are some teams who have been. It's not the Bengals because they're good. They're on to next year. Right?
Isn't they're Mike McDaniel is apparently part of the interviewing panel for the GM job there? Is he also part of the hiring panel for the head coach? Do you think Mike's on the call?
Who's your best replacement?
Like if Mike is on the conference call inquiring about John Harbaugh.
How would you replace me in my humor?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That would be funny.
He's involved in that. So let's go with this. We're gonna rank. We'll rank all the jobs, and we'll break down who left and what the future lies. So number one, best coaching job available is the Baltimore Ravens now.
Yeah,
they have leapfrogged to number one.
Correct.
I think that's pretty clear.
Yes.
I hate only talking about quarterbacks. I hate it. But it's the most influential position.
I mean, they're the only one of the available jobs with a clear superstar franchise quarterback, multiple-time MVP. Like, it doesn't get more distanced than that. There are other guys on the list that maybe could potentially become that if they develop. Right. But, I mean, he's the one guy that's quite obviously in that category. So, I mean, it has to be a differentiator.
And so for best available jobs, who the quarterback is a huge factor. And then when you're talking about evaluating a coach, tying him to the quarterback is obviously very important as well. And I keep coming back to, I mean, look, the Belichick and Brady thing was fascinating because you never saw Belichick really win without Brady, but they did it for 20 years.
Right.
You rarely get to see a coach win with multiple quarterbacks. And so in recent history, the reason why John Harbaugh got fired is, they didn't live up to expectations, in part because it's like, you've got this two-time MVP quarterback. How have you not made it to a Super Bowl, won a Super Bowl? However, on this 18-year resume, you also won a Super Bowl with Joe Flacco and had 18 years of pretty consistent teams with the Ravens, with a good front office. Like, it's been a good, well-run organization. So maybe it just ran its course.
And also, by the way, this is the fascinating thing about it. Like, I would love to hear, you never get this because why would they put it out? But, like, I would love to hear an honest sort of evaluate, like, what is clearly the ownership is not in there looking and saying, well, the rookie kicker missed from 44 yards, so it's time. Heads must roll, right? Like they have presumably internally evaluated what has been a disappointing Ravens season. I mean, let's not rewrite history. We've been talking all season long about how this team everyone expected to be contenders really haven't been at any point this year. And even if they made the kick, snuck into the playoffs, whether or not they were able to, they have not at any point this season looked like they could contend in the playoffs, right? So from an ownership point of view, you would be looking at this and saying, man, this has not been a good year. Something's got to change. But I would love to know what the internal kind of KPIs are to say Harbaugh specifically has underperformed for either this year or an extended period of time, and it's him that needs to go. Like, I've determined that 18 years is too long now, and we got to go in a completely different direction. Because, as we said, you hear the information wars and the spin zone afterwards. And I've seen now both sides of effectively the same story. Diana Rossini tweeted yesterday that one of the big stumbling blocks is Harbaugh refused to even entertain any conversation of firing Todd Monken, the offensive coordinator. And if that's true, I think he's dead right. I don't think Monken's in any way, shape, or form a problem within that system.
And supposedly Zach Orr, the defense.
So that's that was the other side, is the alternative argument was Monken, or that Harbaugh wanted to fire Monken but didn't want to fire Zach Orr, who seems like a much bigger problem on the other side of the ball. But
you're saying there's reports that both things
correct.
Are true? Great.
There are conflicting reports, one of which is that he refused to even entertain a conversation of firing Todd Monken. And if that one's true, I'm 100% on Harbaugh's side.
Yeah.
The other report is he wanted to fire Monken but did not want to fire Zach Orr. And if that's true, I'm 100% against Harbaugh's side. The point is, it's fascinating that, like, you know, a guy there for 18 years, can it really come down to that? You know what I mean? Particularly if he's right on that one. Let's say, for argument's sake, that the Rossini report is correct, and somebody out there was like, you need to fire Monken at the end of this. And he's like, no, I'm not firing Monken. That guy, he's not the problem. I refuse to entertain any conversation that involves firing Todd Monken. If that happened, and the solution to that was, well, then I guess it's time to wrap up your 18-year tenure here, that's crazy.
The other report was that the owner, Steve Bisciotti.
Biscotti?
Biscotti.
I think, is that it? No.
Biscotti.
That's
my parents.
Taylor Biscotti. That's not the same. What's his name?
Bisciotti. I believe is how you pronounce it.
Yeah. Carry on.
The report was that it was all his. It was his call.
Well,
but like, to the detriment of everyone else, like other people fought, to keep Harbaugh within the front office.
Right.
Whether that's Eric DeCosta, whoever.
And he's just like, no, it's time to go.
So why? How did it get to this point? It's fascinating because, owners. It's just a crazy world, Sam. I'd like to think from a data-driven perspective, and you and I always talk about, here's this data point. The next question is why, or maybe dig in deeper, like how did you get there? How much do you think owners, have cling to this one thing? Let's say the fourth quarter collapses that the Ravens have, because they've got more 10-point fourth quarter collapses than any team by a mile.
Yeah.
Over the last few years. I mean, it goes back, it's an 18-year run for Harbaugh, but even in the Lamar Jackson era,
right?
You go back to, they were up 35-14 on the Dolphins before Tua was even a thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, these things have been happening. Earlier this year against the Bills, these are a thing. Even though the next question is, well, aren't they up 10? They dominate teams. Aren't they up 10 more than anyone else? But how much do you think an owner, or some of this is just like, I don't want to deal with this anymore. I'm sick of the fourth quarter collapses. I'm sick of the underachieving. Yeah. I'm sick of being one play away, and someone's got to be responsible for this. And let's get someone else in there.
I think it's very easy to just be like, this is idiotic, right? Whatever your decision-making process is, this is stupid and it's wrong. I think it's very easy to say that. It's like, there was this discussion. Dano posted something that got everyone going. The way Dano, everyone's a top 10 quarterback, right? It's really easy to do top 10s as long as you never write the names down. Because you can have 25.
That's always my next question. Show me the other 9.
Because 25 people can be top 10 quarterbacks as long as you never have to show your working, right?
20 top 10 QBs at all
It's like, it's very, and Neil Hornsby always had this point where it's like, it's really easy to dump on all pro teams and stuff as long as you never have to say, well, who should be in, right? Yeah. So this is the same thing. It's really easy to say this process is stupid and you shouldn't do X, Y, and Z as long as you never have to show your workings and actually work it out yourself. I think one of the hardest things to do for teams, owners, top echelon front office things is to self-evaluate and say, this is a problem, but is it a net negative relative to everything else, right? So I've been saying this for years with the Bills. I think they're in a difficult position where for multiple years, 4 straight years or whatever now, they've been in a position of, they should be a Super Bowl caliber team and they haven't got there. So do you say, they have demonstrated now an inability to take that last step and get to a Super Bowl. Therefore, everybody in this, we need to fire the coach, we need to fire somebody, right? Major changes need to be made. Or do you say, there's 31 other teams out there trying to do the same things. A lot of them are quite good, and ultimately 4 straight times we've just come up on the wrong side of variance, right? And so far, they've stuck to that. And I think they're right on that side. It's like every one of these show me a perfect head coach, right? Right now, we're in the honeymoon phase again of the Kyle Shanahan world, where it's like, that guy's the best coach in the NFL. Somebody should throw 3 first-round draft picks at the 49ers for Kyle Shanahan. He's 3 weeks away from losing a game in the playoffs, right? Yes. Where things unravel. It's like, dude, that guy's a bum in the postseason, can't win the big game.
Right.
What are we even doing keeping him?
Yeah.
Right?
How many Super Bowls has Kyle won?
So
0.
When I defend these coaches, as my default position is usually like a guy that's been in the job 18 years and is in and around the playoffs every single year. I need some pretty compelling evidence to move on from that guy, right? That's my sort of default position with these guys usually. That's not to say that John Harbaugh has been a perfect coach, right? Same with Mike Tomlin, same with any of these guys, right? I'm not saying there are no problems here. And I think we're now reaching the point where it's kind of hard to argue that the 10-point fourth quarter collapse thing is just not real at all. There must be something there at this point because there's so many of them. But as you said, the flip side of that is, how many other teams have these 10-point fourth quarter leads in the first place?
Right.
Don't pretend there's no value in that, right?
Yeah.
So if you're ownership, this is why I really want to see at some point, I want to see the workings. I want to see the KPIs. I want to see what you're debating when you make this decision. Because this guy has been there for 18 years. And for most of those 18 years has been universally talked about as being one of the best coaches in the league, right? And you're telling me that in the last couple of years, it unspooled to the point where you're like, he's the problem. Get him out.
The other part of this discussion, and I'll just compare this to the Bills. Like if Sean McDermott, and I saw scouring social media way too much in my life, someone suggested, hey, the Bills, Brandon Beane should call John Harbaugh and say, just hold off on your decision until next Monday,
right,
just in case the Bills lose in the first round here, because you could be having the same discussion there. The thing that makes this unique, again, we come back to this idea of the elite quarterback, right? I think John Harbaugh deserves credit for creating this environment for Lamar Jackson to succeed since he was drafted, right? Not everyone around the NFL may not have done that,
right?
Which was, I'm going to allow an offense to be built around his skill set, which is one of one.
Not just allow, but encourage.
Uniqueness. Yes, and to encourage it. So he deserves credit for that. Just like, again, I go back to Brady and Belichick. Like, Belichick deserves credit for making the decision to go with Tom Brady over Drew Bledsoe when it seemed crazy at the time. You deserve credit for that. But then there's a point where it's like you helped create the monster, but now you have the monster. What have you done with it? So now I'm not worried about Lamar Jackson failing with the new coach, right? He's already in this elite echelon of quarterbacks. You could say, well, postseason and this and that, fine. But he's already there, right? So, I'm not worried. I think Lamar will be head coach proof, so to speak.
Right.
So now you're in this point where, just like Belichick, it's like, well, Belichick never won without Brady, and you could certainly make that case, but of course he deserves credit for being there for the 20 years and fostering that environment. So now you've got John Harbaugh and, say, even Sean McDermott. This is a different conversation for them now because no other team, no other head coach, like 3 other head coaches have been handed that level of quarterback play, right? It's Andy Reid, it's Zach Taylor. There's 4 or 5 coaches that have been handed that level of quarterback play, which is the most impactful, player for winning games.
By the way, can we just pause a beat to appreciate the other reason I love the whole coaching carousel cycle is the potential for hilarious outcomes is off the charts in this world, right? And I'm always about what the funniest thing that could happen is. For example, like the swappity-doo that could take place right now between Stefanski, Harbaugh, and Tomlin if they fire him after the Texans game in the playoffs. That could be hilarious, right? Just swap coaches in the AFC North. The idea that the one remaining head coach in the AFC North with a job still intact is Zach Taylor. So we've gotten rid of one of the best coaches in the last 20 years, right? One of the other best coaches in the last 20 years is like hanging by a thread pending the Houston Texans defense. And then two-time coach of the year Stefanski got let go as bloodletting in Cleveland. Meanwhile, the Bengals are just out here. Their own quarterback is like, you know what? I think something's got to change. And they're like, nah, run it back.
It is pretty
brilliant. Just top-level content.
Stefanski is coveted as well on the market, right?
Yeah.
After being fired by the Browns. So anyway, all I'm saying is I feel like the Ravens and the Bills are in a different spot where they have legitimate Super Bowl expectations. When we look at Tomlin, it's just like, can you win a playoff game?
Right.
Can you show you can do it without Big Ben? Can you stop losing to the Browns in Cleveland? Can you stop some of this stuff? But the Ravens and Bills are at these higher level of expectations. And now that you have this quarterback in place, at some point it's like, all right, are you the right guy to get us to the next level? And that's where the Ravens are. Now, this is like in the draft, right? You're going to mystery box head coach now.
Yes.
And that is risky.
Dangerous.
If you're in Baltimore.
Right. The other thing is, so head coach, it's a little bit like, manager in English soccer. Like they're the sort of face of the franchise guy, right? But I would argue that in certainly some franchises, if not all of them, they are the fourth most important person in the building, right? Most important person in the building is the owner, because billionaire does whatever the hell he wants. Howard Hughes, just go out there, whatever, it doesn't matter. Second most important person in most buildings would be the GM, right? And then the third most important people in some buildings is the quarterback, the franchise quarterback. So again, who knows what's real and what isn't at this point in the spin world. But some reports have been brewing for a while that there has been friction between John Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson, right? And if that's the case, that's where it becomes problematic to be like, how do you, can you keep, because the thing about that is, right, and this is why they're the fourth, not the third most important person in the situation where you've tied when you've tied down a franchise quarterback to big money. It's easier to move on from the head coach than it is the franchise quarterback, right? If things go to hell and that gets blown up completely, you're still kind of stuck with the franchise quarterback in most situations. And not just stuck with them, but you want them because they're hard to get, right? Head coach, you can fire that guy tomorrow. I mean, yeah, it's going to cost you some money and you might downgrade at the position, but you can do it whenever you want. So that's the problem if that was a thing that, Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson began to butt heads more. And if that reached a sort of untenable level, and maybe Lamar Jackson was the guy that wanted rid of Todd Monken or whatever, right? It's all speculation. Nobody knows. But if that was something that was a driving force here, that changes the math. Because then you could be like, yeah, I mean, look.
Someone's got to go, and it's not the QB.
Exactly. It's because then if you're the owner, right, Steve Biscotti or whatever his name is, you could be like, I mean, yeah, he's been here for 18 years. He's been the best head coach of this franchise. He's been one of the best head coaches in the NFL over that time. But his working relationship with the guy who is the franchise now has become untenable, and so something has to change. And again, if that was like, if you won't fire Monken, like that, that's sort of pieces of puzzle that start to put together. Like if his relationship with Lamar had been breaking down, maybe Lamar wanted rid of Monken. Harbaugh's like, no, I'm not getting rid of Monken. He's too good. And then you're like, well, now what do I do? I mean, I kind of have to get rid of Harbaugh, right? If that was the way it broke down, I at least understand it. And I think he's at that point, you're in kind of a no-win situation, right? You're like, it's just become a problem and something major has to change and there's no real good answer here.
Todd Monken, by the way, already interviewing for the Browns head coaching job, I believe. He's already in an interview situation for a head coaching job. So with those conflicting reports, we might have more information, if he was interviewing for the head coaching job, maybe it was one-sided where he's on the favorable side, right? But who the heck knows at this point?
By the way, that would be, imagine being, like if that, again, who knows? But if that was the way it broke down, that people were pressuring him to get rid of Monken, he was like, hell no, and then Monken goes and just leaves anyway for a head coaching job or whatever, that would be kind of annoying. Yeah. I got fired protecting this guy's job and he was going to go anyway.
So either way, here's the thing. Why is it the most coveted job? You have a quarterback in place in Lamar Jackson, two-time MVP, who has done it with two different offensive coordinators, and you've got this baseline of success there. Mm-hmm. You have a very good front office with Eric DaCosta as general manager, multiple years of success there. Now, I did hear our friend Ben Solak talking about – what's that?
I saw that.
Yeah. His suggestion was they've been too in this draft and develop mode. We talk a lot about draft and develop, re-sign your own players, and Ben's point, which I think was good. I want to go back and check on it a little bit, but he talks fast and he rants through it, and he's spouting off players, and it's like there's some truth there, right? The offensive line, it's all draft and develop players. The linebacker level, it's Roquan Smith and some Trenton Simpson and Teddy Buchanan and the draft and develop players. Are they missing out on some big impact players where that they've gotten from free agency? Have they complemented their roster enough with free agents? And we're a couple of years ago. Remember when Mike McDonald was there the last year, and I said I called him like the sea of green. Defense in particular, where everybody's great, everybody's good. Kyle Hamilton's on his way to becoming a superstar, but everyone else is good. You could argue Madubuike, which, by the way, there's a Reddit rumor that he's nearing retirement, by the way. The same Reddit rumor that was like, hey, Harbaugh and Lamar hate each other. There's a breakup coming, just saying. So I think it's a good infrastructure and DaCosta and everything. However, they have also lost some front office pieces.
Yeah.
They lost Chad Alexander to the Chargers, who is,
and of course, remember,
interviewing for GM jobs. They lost some hidden gems from their front office who help on the player evaluation.
And not
side.
even hidden gems. I mean, remember, they made the move, like Ozzie Newsome kind of stepped back, right? Like he was the guy, the personnel guy, the GM, the guy that had run all that stuff for years and had been arguably the best guy in the NFL at it. And then he sort of stepped backwards up into the emeritus position and let DaCosta take over. And you're like, has it been as good since that point?
Well, Hortitz goes to the Chargers. Chad Alexander goes with they gutted the Ravens front office. Even some of the other analytics people that they always have one of the bigger analytics teams. Like some of their people have been moving around the league. So I'm just saying, like, that's just something to keep an eye on. I'm not saying they've lost their fastball or anything, but it is a good infrastructure. DaCosta's probably still a good GM. You have the quarterback in place. You've got a pretty good nucleus of players, but they did just feel slow, old, lacking pass rush on the defensive side. The offensive line, again, Lamar is so fascinating because there aren't many advanced metrics over the last few years that say, oh yeah, he's got this great offensive line, but because he's such a run threat, he does elevate the line, right? Yeah. So are they good enough up front at the guard position in particular? So there are some questions from a roster perspective, but it's still the top job available.
Yeah, and it's still a roster that going into the season we thought was one of the best in the NFL. And I think a big part of that is, you talked about when Mike McDonald was there, a similar on paper looking group of defenders looked amazing, right? And then you take him away, he goes to Seattle, and suddenly the group doesn't look as good. And, there are people out there that are calling for Zach Orr's job. And it's like, well, what if you're, new head coach looking to come in, I mean, how much can you get out of those guys, right, would be a question. Maybe you immediately transform that defensive group on paper and it goes back to being one of the better groups in the NFL. So there's that part of it. And then there's the part of, I think, generally draft and develop. I mean, it is the way you want to do things optimally, right? Because if you do that well, it's cheaper. You pay less because the draft, those guys are salary-controlled contracts. But the reason you don't ever do any one thing in the NFL exclusively is because there's weaknesses. And the weakness with the draft and develop thing is if you go on a run of a couple of years and you don't hit,
if your hit rate takes any kind of hit,
then you're done.
Right.
So you look at the, pass rush, I think, is the most obvious one for the Ravens. Like, they've actually invested pretty heavily in pass rush in the draft. Mike Green, David Ojabo, the guy they traded away. Odafe Owe. Those are 3 top 2 rounds draft picks, right? 3 first
Ojabo
or second.
May have been a third-round flyer because of the injury.
Okay, but was projected as being a first-round guy before he did his knee. Like, these are all pretty high draft picks, none of whom have worked out yet. Now, look, Mike Green year 1, but whatever. So far, none of those guys have made an impact, right? And if you have that kind of run of like 3 or 4 of those draft picks at the same spot and none of them hit, you're in trouble. It's a weakness. Because they're all going to stay there, right? Because you just invested in them, so they're all going to be on your roster. And if you got 4 guys on the roster, none of whom are making any kind of impact, that spot is a weakness. So that's the issue the Ravens have run into at the moment, is that they've just missed for a while.
Now, the one last thing, because usually organizations that have had multiple years of success, I used to hate thinking like this, but it's probably true. The owner matters a lot. The owner matters a lot. Just like any business. The actual, boss,
Sure.
the leader, in not just in who they hire, but also how they operate day to day. So as we rank the rest of these jobs, you could see some issues from the top down for the rest of the jobs. So Ravens are number 1 on our list of head coach jobs.
And
available.
are generally said and assumed to have a very good owner. Now,
Yes.
That's with the caveat that that's rarely been tested in the last 20 years. It's like it's easy to say, well, he's patient. He gives his coaches plenty of, room to operate and stuff. It's like, yeah, on the other hand, Harbaugh has usually been good. So how often has it come up?
But that could be it, though. Like, that's the fact. Is if he is trusted Ozzie and trusted
but it's like
and trust Harbaugh,
it's
and
chicken
you're not
and the egg,
meddling.
right? But it's chicken and the egg. It's like as long as this is working, there's no real reason for the owner to go in and meddle and be knee jerk and fire everybody. But is that also why it's working, right? Like that's the difficult evaluation here. Is he inherently hands off, willing to give these guys time and room to work, and that's why it's successful, or has he just had a couple of good people in place for a long time? And now, what if he gets the wrong guy now? Is he going to spend the next 5 years firing people every year? I'm just saying we don't really know, but we assume he's a good owner.
One last point, really quick. Saw this point made somewhere else too. John Harbaugh was a special teams coach.
Yeah.
And again, people run with this stuff all the time. I go, oh, John Harbaugh had success. Why don't we hire more special teams coaches? Why don't we? It's like, that's one example, and it's probably unique to John Harbaugh. Not saying special teams coaches can't make good coaches, but if you don't have expertise on one side of the ball, does that make the job even more challenging? Because I go the other way sometimes. It's like every year it's, hot offensive coordinator, hot defensive coordinator. And the idea is, hey, you're at least the brain power on one side of the ball. And then all you have to do is be really good, making sure that you have a good group of offensive coordinators or whatever. The other side of the ball needs to get taken care of. Is it even more difficult for a guy like John Harbaugh, who now lost Mike McDonald a couple years ago, has had to go through Greg Roman, Todd Monken? Like, you always have to have a good offensive coordinator. You always have to have a good defensive coordinator, and you have to have two pipelines replacing those guys if you have success, because that's where they get plucked from. Is it more challenging if you don't have expertise on one side of the ball?
Well, he was the poster child for the other side of the argument for years. It's like, hey, look, Harbaugh came as a special teams guy, and look at that. Maybe everyone needs to start looking at the special teams coordinators.
Yeah.
Why are we not hiring from that side of things? Given that you can make a fairly compelling argument on either side, my assumption is there's nothing there on either side. Like, Harbaugh worked out as a special teams coach. I mean, we talk all the time, right? It's 5, 6, 7 jobs all rolled into one, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter if you're not an offensive or a defensive guy. If you're good at the other stuff, you're good, right?
But it could make you more fragile. And again, this is more
the
like
risk is
a feather in the cap of John Harbaugh that he's done this. Like, going way back, he had Gary Kubiak as an offensive coordinator, right? He's had a ton of different coordinators to match all of this success.
Yeah, but I wonder. I'd be interested in seeing the rate at which, because teams hire from successful organizations, right? So if you're winning a lot of games every year, you're going to lose staff, whatever your dynamic is, right? Whether you're the brains on your side of the ball, or whether you're just the special teams guy and somebody else is the coordinator and they're bringing the system. Either way, you're going to lose people because teams hire from successful organizations. I would be interested in the rate at which guys are hired away for a guy like Harbaugh versus McVay and Shanahan, who they seem to lose a coordinator every year, because
then you're attached. You're
Correct.
attached to the guru,
right?
So they actually have to replace.
Exactly.
They actually need to pipeline more.
So theoretically, it's easier for Shanahan to replace his guys because he's the brains, right?
Yeah.
He is the coordinator in addition to being the head coach. On the other hand, he might have to be doing it every year because people are hiring the guy that's connected to Shanahan, right? Whereas that isn't happening to Harbaugh, or wasn't happening to Harbaugh. So, yeah, you may rely on them more, but I think you probably lose them at a lower rate than these other guys.
All right,
so, again, I'm back to, I think it doesn't really matter.
Hard maybe from you. We've got 6 other head coaching jobs to rank, so we're on pace for a 6-hour show.
Sweet.
Number 2, we did this together. Check the mic.
Yeah.
Head coaching rankings. the Atlanta Falcons.
Yes.
I don't feel great about it, but I don't feel great about all the jobs.
Well, the reason we were kind of surprised by this firing is they're not a bad team. I mean, again, you beat the Jets in one random game midseason, you actually win the division this year, where people thought you would have been going into the season, and that's with a quarterback that didn't play well and then got hurt. So
the downside to the
pretty
Falcons,
solid spot.
There's downsides to all these spots. The downside to the Falcons here, you have a head coach job opening, you have a GM opening,
Yep.
you have a newly built president job that was made for Matt Ryan that he's interviewing for this week, along with others. So you have a complete overhaul.
Yep.
And then you have no first-round pick, and you have massive quarterback questions. Kirk Cousins is going to be gone.
That's the big one.
Right? Cousins is gone. And you have this old staff. And look, our friend Zach was fired in this whole thing here.
Has he
as well.
technically been fired yet?
Oh, yeah. I mean, they're all out.
But I know he is on his way out. But have they actually ended his contract yet?
They don't list every coach, but they're all gone. They're all.
But there's a difference between he will be fired and currently they have retained his contract, assuming he will be fired, but they haven't yet done it.
I think they're all out. Now I don't know if that means they're drop kicked out of the building.
His fob stopped working already.
But there's not going to be a list of the OC and the DC and the QB coach and the wide receiver coach and the tight end coach. And
usually
it's everybody's assumed fired, and then the new guy comes in. He's we're retaining the O-line coach.
Yeah, but coordinator is usually that's high enough up that you feel that gets reported.
Anyway, I believe it's a full house cleaning. So you've got the old staff, Terry Fontenot, Raheem Morris, Zach Robinson, all the way down. Loved Michael Penix.
Yep.
So much.
Correct.
That they were willing to take him at 8 overall, despite having paid Kirk Cousins the biggest free agent contract for a quarterback that offseason. What does the new coach come into? Because Penix showed promise as a rookie, struggled a little bit this year, very up and down this year, and has the knee injury, third significant knee injury of his college and NFL career. So the quarterback position is a massive question mark for Atlanta.
It is.
But as you said, they've added some nice pass rushers, some youth there, got some playmakers on defense. You've got some offensive line intact. You have a Drake London.
I mean, I would say everything other than the
Bijan.
quarterback is now in pretty good shape.
Yeah. I mean, I think there are other roster questions, but
yeah, wide receiver could use some depth and there are.
Yeah.
It's not a perfect roster, but you would look at it and say, look, the defense is that good. The offensive line is in decent shape. There are at least pieces everywhere on offense. Okay, Kyle Pitts is a pending free agent and stuff, but there are things to work with. Everything except quarterback. To the point where geriatric Kirk Cousins with his busted Achilles can come in and be fine. It's a good situation.
Well down the stretch. So we've got people like Bears assistant GM Ian Cunningham interviewing, I believe, technically for the president job. They're interviewing a lot of other people for Matt Ryan's president job. I think with the idea that they're all GM candidates as well. Brant Tillis from the Carolina Panthers, Eric's boss. So there's a few interviews going down.
It's like casting for a movie, right? You bring in a guy, he reads for whatever character. You're we don't love you for that role, but what about
maybe
this one?
Something else.
Yeah.
Maybe GM. Maybe see how you work with this other guy we're going to hire for the job. So the Falcons at number 2 because there's at least some level of nucleus, even though there's the quarterback question.
Yep.
Third best job. We've gone with the New York Giants. We've talked a lot about it on this show. When we talk about nucleus, Jackson Dart and all the promise that he showed.
Yep.
Malik Neighbors. As I was just thinking Malik. I was in my head while we were talking about the Falcons. I was like, what are they going to do at quarterback with no first round pick? And I'm like, maybe they're the Malik Willis investment.
I mean, I'd be very interested to watch that.
Yes.
Malik Willis in that situation, I'm here for it.
Yeah. But the Giants with Malik Neighbors, Abdul Carter, Dexter Lawrence, Brian Burns, they still have some pretty good players. Andrew Thomas at left tackle. They have good players at some key positions.
They do. Again, they had so many injuries this year that I think it's easy to see that group or that team as completely bereft of talent, but it really isn't. They have quite a lot of pieces there, and that's with, suddenly Wan'Dale Robinson, emerges as a really useful part of that team. Obviously, he'll take a step down the depth chart when Malik Neighbors comes back, but by a lot of their offensive line was wildly improved this year. They've got some pieces to work with. The running back stable is now really good with, again, people coming back from injury, Scatterboo. It's a pretty good spot. Now, you've got the question mark of what exactly is Jackson Dart, both in terms of how good he can be and in terms of can he stop himself taking ridiculous hits and putting himself out of the game. What is his availability going to be like long term? And then the other thing is, if you're ranking purely head coaching destinations, this is one of those awkward ones where it's like they retain the GM. He can't possibly be on a particularly stable footing long term. So are you really loving the idea of stepping into this job where the GM might get fired next year, and then your job becomes, the mismatched timescale for the GM and the head coach thing?
You have to have so much confidence in the GM. Most GMs who get to be a part of the head coaching hiring, like Mike Bergonzi's leading the head coach hiring with the Titans. It's year 2, right? It's year 2 of Bergonzi. You're basically on a similar time scale, and then Bergonzi's going to hire his guy. And look, if it doesn't work out, they're both gone anyway. If it works out, they're there forever. But Joe Schoen in year 4, and then hiring this head coach, that's the one that feels a little sketchy,
now,
a little iffy.
I think a lot of times players, coaches, sports people anyway, I think they have a very optimistic outlook on how things will go generally. That's part of why they are where they are. So I don't know how much of this is us projecting our own fragile, pathetic mental states, looking at these things and being, I could see 17 different things that could go wrong here.
What's funny is
but if you're a head coach looking at this situation, are you even entertaining the idea that this could go badly year 1? Shane gets fired. Now suddenly my job's in jeopardy because the new GM's coming in. Or are you just nah, this is a good bones. Joe Shane's a good guy. He's good people. We're going to make this work, and it's all going to be good, right?
What's funny is you'd be good at this actually. If you listen to Jordan Rodriguez's podcast series, Play Callers, the first season was all play caller driven, was all offensive minds and defensive minds. The second season was all front office people. Mm-hmm. And I remember a quote from Bears assistant GM Ian Cunningham, who is interviewing for the Falcons president job here, that he said something like, I forget how he worded it, but it was something to the effect of, I'm always laying out the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
He's the guy that's well, what if this goes badly?
Right.
There's somebody in the building. This is what I'm saying. You'd be great at that. What if, you're the guy that's well, what if everything fails? What if everything goes wrong? What do we do? But you need somebody to say, okay, to the Maras, hey, you want to retain Joe Schoen. You believe in him. You hired him. Maybe the picks have been good in recent years. Fine. But what if we have another bad year? What would it take for you to not believe in him? Because if the answer is, if the Giants have one more bad year, he's out of here, then why not just bring 2 people in?
This is a super deep cut that only Magnus from our chat may get as a reference, but the 40K world had this. They brought in a guy for a specific. They called him a Naismith, right? And you say nay, no. Your whole role in this little dynamic of 4 people was to be the one guy that just shat on every idea. I could do that.
You could be the Naismith.
I can spot the flaw in your plan from a mile away. That doesn't mean I have a better one. It just means I can tell you why yours is not going to work.
Whoever emailed us yesterday, RBE, or tweeted at us, RBE, resident billionaire expert.
Oh.
Given your expertise as the RBE, you could sit there and just be the conscience, so to speak, for the billionaire owner. Have you considered the downsides to this movie you're about to make?
Let me tell you why this movie is
Mr. Billionaire,
stupid.
sir. Oh, you'd be great at that.
Yeah.
That's what you do to me every show. So Giants is the number 3 job per Check the Mic.
Yep.
Is that fair?
Mm-hmm.
Number 4 job available, Tennessee Titans. We're getting iffy on all these.
Yeah, well, now it's starting to get to how good is this job or how bad is this job?
So the Tennessee Titans, what's going on? First off, why is the job decent? You at least have Cam Ward. You have a guy that was drafted last year, showed some signs of life, and, get something to build around, at least at the quarterback position.
And you've made this point that, look at the schedule that he played this year. It was brutal, and that's just in terms of, overall level of team. I saw Ben Baldwin do it up when he was this whole MVP discussion, Stafford, May, blah, blah, blah. It's like, how good he did up the pass defense strength of schedule specifically.
Yeah, he's last, right?
Yeah, hardest schedule in the NFL. So, he was focusing on the Stafford May thing to begin with, and then also pulled up Cam Ward's. He didn't just face a brutal schedule overall, i.e. he played good football teams. He played specifically the hardest pass defenses in the NFL relative to everybody else. So, again, Cam Ward basically had the hardest gig of any quarterback in the NFL this year. The fact that he showed any signs of life is good.
Yes.
It's kind of like Drake May a year ago. Now, I'm not saying he's going to have the same level of jump between year one and year two as Drake May did, but Drake May's brief last year was just survive. Just get out of the year and not be ruined. That's all. If you do that, win. Same with Cam Ward. He just needed to get out of that year without obviously failing. And not only did he do that, but I think by the end of the season, we were seeing serious, incremental development in his game. I think that's huge. Now, again, who knows how much of a step he'll take between year one and year two, but that's the reason for optimism for Cam Ward. If you're just looking at his stats and be like, man, these numbers are kind of ass, well, then you're missing, I think, a lot of the context. You're missing how bad the situation was around him. You're missing how hard his assignment was relative to everybody else, and you're missing actually watching him take those incremental steps late in the season.
Yeah, and I think a lot of data-driven people, it's just a funny world because I follow a lot, friends with a lot and everything. The data-driven world, whether it's on Twitter, through conversation, whatever it might be, it's almost like the suggestion is you have to use as much information as possible. We're data people. But then at the end of the day, they just kind of cling to one little thing and then project it out as this is the most important thing. For instance, if you say, well, if you don't have success as a rookie quarterback, you're screwed. When it's not really true, right. But it might be true over time. But you still have...
Generally true.
Right, it could be generally true, but it's Matthew Stafford and Jared Goff. You could find enough people that got out of it. So if you just looked at the numbers context-free, you would say Cam Ward struggled.
Yeah.
And there are some data people who are like, why would you ever say Cam Ward was good on film because he's got a bad EPA and he's got a bad this or that? It's there's context around all of this. Mm-hmm. So I think there are reasons to be optimistic around Cam Ward and the Titans. I'm not saying he's going to be a superstar.
Yeah.
I'm just saying there's reasons to be optimistic. And I think they're going to attack the offseason the same way.
They have a ton of money to spend.
Yes, the same way the Bears did last year, the same way the Patriots did. I know people were joking with us last year when we said the Bears won the offseason, and they're like, congratulations, 10th straight year, you won the offseason. Mm-hmm. But maybe they did. Because they attacked the offensive line in a way that you dream of, right?
Yeah.
We're going to trade for Joe Tooney. We're going to make a trade for Jonah Jackson. We're going to get
all
the
of
top
which
free
has
agent center. Right, we're going to attack our three weaknesses on the offensive line, and they're going to work. And the Titans have a chance, and I think they're going to attack and again, the Patriots did something similar. We got a starting corner, great pass rusher. We got Stephon Diggs late. We got key players at key positions. I think the Titans are going to attack this in a similar manner with extra draft capital and with cap space.
Yeah.
Now, they need to because they have one good player in their team, Jeffrey Simmons.
Yeah.
So they have to.
Well, that's the thing.
But they're going
right?
to. It's going to be a new roster this year.
The optimistic side of this, and the reason you would say it's a good job, is you've got Cam Ward, and he was better than the numbers would say this year. You've got a ton of cap space, and you have extra draft picks. These are all good things for the future if you're building a team. The bad side is you have very little talent anywhere. So it's those are your two things you're weighing.
So I like the Titans here at number 4 on our list of head coaching job openings. Now, 5, 6, and 7, I agreed to the list. I don't know if I'd flip them a little bit. We went with number 5, the Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah.
Are they that high? I don't know.
These are, when you reach this point in the list, it's none of these are good. It's just which thing do you not like the most?
So the Raiders at 5. Here's the thing. There was sometimes this is good. So I don't know. Remember the Tyler Lockett thing when we did the Winston Churchill bit?
Yeah.
Tyler Lockett, what was the quote that he had that I jumped into? That was a Winston Churchill quote.
I don't remember.
So he basically said something like, hey, it's great to not have a bunch of people who only care about the team or something like that. And it was right after Russell Wilson left. It was something to that effect, and you were like, "Oh, this is a knock on Wilson," right?
Which it was.
And I said, "No, it's not. It's just he's just using Churchill quotes." Mm-hmm. So John Spytek, I say all that to say this. Spytek said something to the effect of, because this is the media asked a really sharp question: what are you looking for in the next head coach?
Sure.
Right. So what are you looking for in the next head coach? And then the implication is they're going to list a whole bunch of qualities that the last head coach didn't have.
Right.
And whether it's true or not, it's like, well, this is why Pete's out of here. This is why Brian Callahan never made it in Tennessee. But one of the quotes that he said that seems like a direct shot at Pete Carroll was, I want somebody in here that's not necessarily caring about winning 10 games, but the development of the team or whatever he came around to. So when you hear those quotes in hindsight and you see the team building effort, where last year at this time we were like, great opportunity to blow it up. You were in a difficult division, which proved true. Mm-hmm. You are the worst team in the division. Start from scratch. And then the next month, they're like, Geno Smith, come on down. Flipping a third rounder for it. I trust in John Spytek to build this thing up as general manager, even though there's not a lot of talent on the roster right now. That's the part I think that puts the Raiders in a position. I think they'll be a draft and develop team and have the right, team building philosophy here going forward.
Yeah,
I think they got off kilter a little bit when they brought Pete in, which is their fault too.
The only selling point for a head coach here is that the guy as a GM wants to do this the way the Lions did it with Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes, right? He wants to do long-term,
the
put it
Bucs
together.
where he came from, where it's all drafted.
But he wants to do this long-term, stable, sustainable project of development and growth, right? So for a head coach, that's great. If you want to come in and not be under pressure to win 10 games right away and develop along with the roster and develop some young players, that's perfect for you. The downside to that is, does anybody have the confidence that Mark Davis has the patience for that?
Well, does Tom Brady have the patience?
Or Tom Brady, owner in chief, Tom Brady. Does he have the patience for that? Tom Brady, a man who's won all the time ever, like throughout his entire life, I don't know if he has the stomach for this is going to take 3 years to win, Tom. Chill, right? Is that in Tom Brady's makeup? So that's literally the only selling point for the head coach is the GM is probably going to give you a lot of runway to work. I don't know if anybody else in that building will, and if they don't, you have no talent to work with. So that's rough.
Did you see the post-mortem there on some of the quotes about how the offensive line coaching, which we had suspected was
Pete Carroll's son?
Yes. That Spytek was in there watching film with Ashton Genty, and he was the one doing film study with Genty and some of the other players because they weren't getting what they needed, so to speak. Now again, I just picture Genty's agent, texting the insiders, being like, "Listen, let me tell you why my guy averaged 3 yards per carry."
I mean, it was obvious to everyone.
It was, of course, but
the worst offensive line.
There's still control in the story.
Yeah. That's the thing.
The first week of January is golden week for, you know what? My player
lies.
My player played injured the whole season, but he was a warrior. He didn't want to sit out. He wanted to do it for the team. But I just want you to know he was playing hurt.
In this world of we outlined a scenario there with John Harbaugh where it's really nobody's fault. What the hell is that sound? It's really
always some construction going wherever we are.
It's really nobody's fault, but things just reached an impasse and something had to change, The flip side is you can get these situations where it's such an avoidable conflict to be like, what if I just didn't hire my son as the offensive line coach? Some other things have gone south and, but this is just such an easy not problem to have. How hard would it be if I just hired a real coach for my offensive line instead of my son and then steadfastly kept him in the job while firing everybody else? The Raiders are now paying something like $50 million next year for people that aren't coaching them. I'm paying $50 million for people to not coach the Raiders. Meanwhile, the worst element of the team, you're like, nah, we're going to keep him. I believe he's doing a good job. I mean, yeah.
So this is the downside here, though. If it's not so much is it a good job or not? It's more of will the Raiders make the right choice? Spytek, Brady, they were in the building last year. They were part of all of these decisions. And what they landed on was, in a rebuild. Like, it's a pretty clear rebuild for the Raiders from a roster perspective. They've got some pieces, but it's a rebuild. In a pretty clear rebuild, they went 70-year-old coach. They went offensive coordinator and Chip Kelly, who's just a big name who had really one good year calling plays over the last decade with Ohio State. Like, it wasn't
that's another part
he
of the...
wasn't offensive genius at
Right.
UCLA necessarily like he was at Oregon and then a couple of years in Philadelphia with Pete Carroll, who he hasn't worked with.
Yeah, that's another
And they
part.
traded for Geno Smith, right? Those are three moves, certainly in hindsight, but even at the time, it's like, well, this is interesting. Three moves, certainly in hindsight, that don't match the pattern of where that roster was going. And now two of them are gone, and certainly I can't imagine they're like, yeah, we got to run it back with Geno next year.
That's another part of this post, fallout spin has been all the reports of like Pete Carroll wanted no part of Chip Kelly, but he was foisted on him, and that at least matches the initial, like, that doesn't feel like a natural fit, right?
No.
So that part I'm willing to believe. And again, it's like, how do you judge a head coach based off, one of the big failings is the offense sucked and you made him hire that coach. So number one, it's again, if you're a head coach.
Yeah, but did he come back and be like, well, you're gonna have my son as offensive line coach?
I don't know.
What was that conversation?
But again,
like?
if you're a prospective head coach interviewing for that job, and you're like, is this a good gig for me or not? Like, one of the things you're dealing with is, number one, they foisted an offensive coordinator on this guy last year. Number two, they thought that was the right move. And number three, am I now subject to these guys who might have knee-jerk reactions to things and also are meddling and also might be meddling with the wrong like information to begin with. Like, the meddling they're doing is bad on top of the fact that they're doing it in the first place. So these are all things to stack up against this being a good job.
Now, part of the reason why it's a good job, number one overall pick. So, you get to choose your quarterback,
right?
Rebuild this thing. That's why it's number 5.
And also, by the way, if you think about this in different terms, I mean, you might get fired very quickly and earn a lot of money.
True. It could be great. I mean, friend of the show, Tom Telesco.
The retirement fund.
Beautiful one and done at general manager.
The retirement fund may go through the
Sorry
roof.
for your loss, Tom. Yeah, it's all right. Get to hang out with my family, with kids, get paid for it.
Once you start to factor that element into the whole landscape looks different, Like, the soccer, we've had a bunch of these guys get fired in the last few days. One of them basically came out and just had a press conference that was such a, please fire me press conference without saying that it was amazing. And you're like, can you imagine, you and I had to go and find ourselves soft landings before we left, right? Imagine if you could have just come out, dragged the ownership publicly for a day and walked away with a couple of $1 million. I'd have done that years ago.
What would you have said to drag ownership?
I would have said the truth.
All right.
Yeah. I would have outlined my problems within the building publicly.
Maybe someday there'll be the tell-all.
And that would have gotten me fired. And the point is, it would have gotten me fired with a couple of $1 million instead of what would have happened if I'd done that is it would have gotten me fired with 2 weeks' pay. And that's not as good.
No, it's not.
But in the NFL, that will get you fired with your full severance. You get to walk away with millions.
It's the dream.
It really is.
An absolute dream. Number 6 job, check the mic, head coaching openings. Cleveland Browns.
Yeah. This would be a lot higher if it wasn't for the fact that all of a sudden the roster looks in really rough shape. Their entire offensive line is an impending free agent. Don't get too carried away with where they are in the current table of salary cap space because, number one, a third of the league is over the cap right now. This is how it always looks in January. Number two, they can immediately free up an absolute boatload of money based off how they generally approach the salary cap and specifically with the Deshaun Watson contract, et cetera. So it's not as bad as it looks, but the fact that they've allowed that situation to progress where it's already not a good offensive line and wide receiver group and most of them are free agents and you don't have a quarterback. There are a lot of reasons why this is suddenly not great looking.
Yeah, we've said a lot on this show. And look, I think let me just give a quick positive and negative for Stefanski and Andrew Barry that I think are fair. I've said before, I think Andrew Barry's overall done a really good job. What?
I always find this funny, Like, other than making the single worst move in NFL history, he's done a pretty good job.
Because we just don't know who we just don't know if that was ownership.
And critically, like people,
it doesn't mean Andrew Berry's not complicit in it at all.
And people have said, well, they've talked publicly about this. This is 100% Andrew Berry's job. It's like, no, I mean, him saying a thing and us knowing the truth of the reality of that situation are not the same thing. Andrew Berry has taken full responsibility for the Deshaun Watson deal.
Let me just say,
that does not mean Andrew Berry was 100% the driving force here, because the alternative is the owner was the driving force here.
Let's say it's all Andrew Berry, and he made the single worst decision. He made the call in isolation. He brought in Deshaun Watson, paid him the guaranteed money. It's all Andrew Berry's fault. The only reason why I give him a pass is because I'm a data person, Sam, and that's only, it's a big decision, but it's only one solitary decision. Everything leading up to that was the Browns. I know this was years ago, 3 or 4 years ago now, one of the best offensive lines in the league.
Yeah.
Year over year.
Right.
Did they miss on left tackle? Yes. The other 4 were fantastic for a while. Good defense. On and off, but they finally rebuilt the defense around Myles Garrett in 2023. They had one of the best secondaries for a few years of depth. They were drafting and developing and sprinkling in free agents, and they built a good, solid, all-around roster. Mm-hmm. They did, until the Deshaun Watson move. And so even if it's all Andrew Berry's fault to make that move and to push Baker out the door and what have you, then fine. You want to hold that against him, that's fine. But I think if you have a GM who's really good at building the 52 and he screwed up at the one spot on the 53-man roster, that you play your odds and you say, okay, like let's not screw up the one thing next time, but I trust you with the 52. I trust you with everything else. And the reason why the offense is in shambles and they don't have a number one receiver and they don't have tackles, they have a falling apart offensive line, and they have to maneuver to get their cap space is because of Deshaun Watson. It's all because of that one move. So I've seen them build that roster up from very little to a playoff team, 2-time playoff team. I've seen that happen. So that's where I give Andrew Berry the pass. And I say the same thing about Stefanski. I give him a bit of a pass because he was handed Deshaun Watson in this depleted roster.
Yes.
Now, we could go the other way and say, Deshaun Watson used to be really good, by the way. Remember that? Mm-hmm. He used to be really good. Because I always give Stefanski a pass, and I say, well, he had the year where he had 5 quarterbacks, and one of them was Watson, and every time Watson's out there, he sucks. He's terrible. Is that Stefanski's fault? Is that his system? Did he not adjust to a quarterback who was previously good, or was this just inevitable at that point in his career? But I usually give him a pass too, Stefanski. And I think the rest of the league will too, because they're 2-time coach of the year, and he's out there, and they're going to call him for jobs. So I guess all my point is I don't think the infrastructure in Cleveland is poor, but you got to figure out quarterback. You got to figure out the offensive line. You need a playmaker. You got to continue to build the defense. There is some work to do on this roster.
There's a lot of work to do on this roster. And as I say, the problem with, like, you can give him a pass for the Deshaun Watson thing, but the problem is that is still crippling this team. And that's the issue you're dealing with. And that's why it's down here as one of the worst jobs available, because the roster is now in some trouble. They don't have a ton of flexibility to get out of that trouble. Yes, they've got multiple draft picks, but you might need to use that to go get your quarterback. So it's not a particularly good situation. I would also now put the way I think Stefanski was basically thrown under the bus here as a fall guy. Like, in my opinion, just start with the premise of you went into the season with a quarterback depth chart of old man Joe Flacco and then 2 mid to low round rookies. What did you expect this season to look like, right? If you expected it to look much better than it's looked right now, I don't know what to tell you, because I don't know that there are many coaches in the NFL that could get much more out of that, right?
Right.
Now, again, does that mean Stefanski was flawless this year? Does that mean he maximized every last ounce of what? No, probably not. But again, multiple-time coach of the year, let's give the man some slack for not turning chicken shit into chicken salad, right? It was a rough situation, and he didn't maximize it. But that, I don't think you should fire him, given that we knew this was a rough situation going into it. So, again, if you're the new head coach coming in, you're like, am I immediately the sacrificial lamb the second something goes south here? And with it being Cleveland, things tend to go south.
And Jimmy Haslam came out with some quotes yesterday. I don't have them in front of me, but I'll paraphrase. They were asking, like, what has Andrew Berry done to, why do you have confidence in Andrew Berry? And this is where I just, man, you're asking, like, what do they think? What are they looking at as ownership and everything? So he started rattling off Haslam the last year. Well, he drafted well, the trade down, traded for Tyson Campbell. He's basically saying the last draft class was good, and that's why I have faith in Andrew Berry. Meanwhile, I'm over here trying to take a reasonable approach. And when did Berry get there? Like 18 or whatever? I'm trying to say, like, the 6, 7, 8 years of Andrew Berry,
right?
Way more good than bad. I'm trying to look at it from a holistic, here's the whole tenure. The other part I know, again, there's an infrastructure there of it's data-centric. I'm not saying that's always the right answer. I'm just saying they have a pretty good decision-making apparatus. Not saying they've been perfect, but I think they've done a decent job, more good than bad, other than they screwed up quarterback awfully. One more point I want to make. I said this the other day, Baker Mayfield's QB record, his wins, right, with the Browns versus with the Bucs. And I put it out there with no commentary the other day. You know how those work out there on Twitter, right? People, they think you're adding commentary. They think you're trying to tell a story. And I just put it out there. But the narrative that the Browns screwed up Baker, right? The Browns, he couldn't win with the Browns. But then when he went to this good, stable, draft and develop organization, Super Bowl winning Bucs, everything was good. And Baker rejuvenated his career. All I'm saying is 4 years with the Browns, 3 years with the Bucs, he's right around a 500 quarterback. His teams, if you don't want to call it a QB stat, his teams in his starts, in which the quarterback does influence things a lot, right around 500. He's 26-24, including the playoffs with the Bucs, 29-30, including, or maybe it's 30-31, including the playoffs with the Browns. It's very similar. So there's a narrative out there that the awful, stupid Browns screwed up Baker Mayfield, and then the Super Bowl winning, homespun Bucs, Jason Lights, the GM, they saved Baker. And they're both like 500 teams on both ends. And that's all I'm saying is, like, the Browns during the Baker Mayfield era weren't that bad, right? And some people got offended, like, you're trashing Baker. I'm not. I'm just putting the data out there, right? Because Browns, like, a 500 quarterback for the Browns is outstanding historically. We've said, like, Baker did great things for the Browns, but Berry and Stefanski and everybody there, they did some really good things for the Browns. It's been more good than bad in Cleveland. Mm-hmm. I don't even know what I'm ranting about now.
The other element with this whole unknown who was driving the Deshaun Watson thing is it's bad either way, and that's part of why it's not a good thing why it's rough for a head coach coming in there. Is if it was Andrew Berry driving it, then your GM made the worst move in NFL history. If it was the owner driving it, then your owner is willing to not just meddle, but, like, completely alter the course of the entire franchise based off his own personal decision on a quarterback, which is more problematic.
Well, let me add to that. Deshaun Watson's under contract next year.
You're still stuck with
it. You have decisions to be made here.
Right.
Now, maybe the decision's been made and they're just like,
he's still stuck on the roster because one of the only ways they can get out of that, being that much over the salary cap is to adjust his contract. Like, you're stuck with him.
And you have to step into Shaduranon.
Yeah.
Oh, I am shocked. I can't believe Deion Sanders has not been handed this job yet.
Also, I can't believe that there's a worse position or like a worse job opening than this one.
Is this true? Maybe I'd flip it. I don't know.
Plus, by the way, it's the Browns, right? Factory of sadness, just 20 years of misery. I mean, history is not on your side going into this job, right? People have gone into this job before with all kinds of optimism, and this is the time we turn it around.
This is where ownership always comes in, right?
Yes.
It's like you're dealing with some stuff.
Right.
Number 7 is the Arizona Cardinals. Are they really the worst? I don't know.
I mean, look, they've upgraded the Wi-Fi.
Jeez, they did. For the whole stadium.
I've said this story before, but my favorite ever story about cheap ownership is the Cardinals, where when Robert Griffith, old Vikings and Cardinals safety, when he played his final game for them and they mailed him his final check, they mailed him his check minus the FedEx cost to mail it to him. Like, they adjusted his check down $8.72 or whatever to mail him his own check. I mean, that's high-level cheapness.
I can't believe it's really a thing.
And they were the other team that for years I think this was when Griffiths was still there, but they had a lot, and they're not the only team that had this. This was in the NFLPA. This is why the NFLPA survey thing. It's why A, it's good, and B, owners hate it because it highlights. Shaming. Yeah, exactly. It shames cheapness. And they were one of the teams that you had to pay for the Gatorades. It was under lock and key, the fridge with the Gatorades in it. You had to actually pay for your own Gatorade during the course of being a professional football player.
It's nuts. It really is.
But they've upgraded the Wi-Fi.
I've told this story before, too.
In the stadium.
It got connected to my baseball career. But I had extensive spring training with two different teams, Brewers and Giants. And in spring training, you'd practice all morning and then play a game. So you'd have a full morning of practice, and then games would start at 1 p.m. And if you had a road game, you weren't back till 4 or 5 p.m., right? They would feed us lunch at 11. It was early lunch because you have to get on a bus and travel around Arizona to play a game. Our lunch would be a turkey sandwich with one slice of turkey and one slice of cheese. Mm-hmm. So we're professional athletes, we're supposed to have 250 grams of protein and blah, 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 and all this stuff. And they're feeding you a turkey sandwich with one slice of turkey at 11 a.m. And it's here, man, go.
Yeah.
For the rest of the day.
Mm-hmm.
To fuel you for the rest of the day. Now, when I got to the Giants, it was hot meal. It was just better. It was just a better. And I couldn't believe it. I'm if you truly wanted to win, and it's not that feeding me matters.
Right.
Not me.
Yeah.
But I'm eating the same thing as
it's an edge.
The first-round pick next to me, right? Who actually should be invested in.
Yes.
Not me, but the guy next to me. All these people that you just spent millions to buy in the draft. You can't just fuel your players well?
This is how you can tell how many NFL owners genuinely want to win a Super Bowl at all costs, right? Because there are guys that are never going to do that. And then there are other guys that are genuinely willing and eager to spend on the things like that they think will make tiny incremental gains everywhere. And when you add up all those incremental gains, maybe that's 2% over a course of a season, right? Which is pretty big. I mean, there's not that much you can do that transforms your entire chance of winning things 2%. That's a lot, but it's comprised by tiny slivers of incremental gains in all these other areas, which cost a lot of money. Yeah. And if you're some owners, you're I'm not paying that amount of money. That's a lot of cash. Your other owners, you're I'm already rich. I'm a billionaire. What the hell? Let's go. Let's spend. Oh, blank check. Do what you need.
In baseball, when you have 180 minor leaguers too, if you develop them into players, players are just assets, right? They're either helping your team or you're trading them. And so the more you invest in your people, the more money you make at the end of the day.
All that to say, I do not think the Arizona Cardinals are one of those franchises that are willing to spend for everything that will give them incremental gains. I would say they're at the other end of that spectrum, Wi-Fi upgrades notwithstanding. So I don't know that this is a great spot to be in.
And so this one's different. You say the Raiders need a quarterback, but they're at least picking number one. The Cardinals, don't have the top pick. They have a quararback need.
Yeah,
presumably a decision on Kyler Murray. We'll see what happens.
But this is the worst of all worlds, right? It's the ownership isn't phenomenal. You don't have a ton of talent, and you don't have the pathway necessarily to upgrade a quarterback. And then lastly, on top of all that, you actually have a quarterback under contract that's quite awkward. So you've got all that together. The Browns have a lot of that as well. That's why they're down there at the same kind of area. But it's all the problems rolled into one.
Matt Nagy is interviewing for the Raiders, Cardinals, and Titans jobs.
The Matt Nagy thing is fascinating to me.
Yeah.
I don't understand it. I genuinely don't. I need somebody to steel man the Matt Nagy argument to me, the case. Because obviously you can make a case of, maybe he's learned lessons and second time around, who knows, right? But you can make that argument for any former head coach in the history of the game. Maybe he's better this time around. Yeah.
Adam Gase has had 2 experiences.
Right.
Give him a third.
Exactly. I saw other people that were he took Mitchell Trubisky to the playoffs. It's yeah, and the Bears themselves decided that it wasn't a net positive, right? That's not a reason either. So, and then it's he's back-to-back Super Bowls with the Chiefs. It's yeah, but you can plot the graph of offensive efficiency for the Chiefs when Matt Nagy arrives, falls off a cliff. Yeah, sure, they won with it still, but they also have Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid.
I honestly do not want to hire. I don't want to look at anybody who's tied to an elite quarterback. Their success is tied to an elite quarterback, and it's he developed Mahomes. It's
Which was the reason he got the first gig, right? Like that's why he got the Bears job.
Right?
Yeah, that's why he got the Bears job, and that didn't go well. So you can't double count that. You can't go, well, maybe that's a reason to give it a shot again. He went back to Mahomes and was good again. And then the other thing is, he's also been, apparently he said he won't be the play caller, like he won't be the actual coordinator in the new gig, right? I'm going to leave that to somebody else. He's also basically said he's not really going to be a details kind of guy. I'm not going to sweat the minutiae. It's like, well, then what are you doing?
Well, that's being a CEO.
It's an interesting approach to an interview when you've failed the first time around, right, as a head coach in relative terms. And then you're trying to get the second gig, and you're like, what I'm going to bring to the table is not this and not this, which are the things you're usually looking for. I'm going to bring you this. Right? I'm just going to bring you a hands-off approach and more of I'm a heuristic kind of guy. Just go north, just head towards the summit. I'm going to be that guy. Okay.
I don't know. I try not to, because again, we talked about it a ton on this show. Nobody really knows who's going to be a good head coach. So I'm trying not to, I think we were probably the most fair to Shouty last year, right? We're like, is it true that
maybe he'll be good?
Is it true that the rest of the league decided we're not going to even interview this guy and it was Dallas's top choice?
Right.
Yes, that is a fact. Is it true that Dallas could be right? Yes, that's true. I mean, again, let me really quick. The Jaguars looked like a dumpster fire in their offseason process.
Oh, the process was a joke.
Right? We're keeping Trent Baalke, and then I would fire Baalke if the coach wants to. Trent, you're on the phone call with me. Right?
That's the thing that I forgot about. When we brought that up on the Instant Reaction show, you were like, remember when they were keeping Trent Baalke, and then Liam Cohen basically said, I won't work with Trent Baalke, and they're like, actually, Trent, see ya. What I forgot is that Shad Khan basically put that out publicly as something that he would do if the situation arose on a call with Trent Baalke. Trent Baalke's sitting there watching Shad Khan admit that, if the right guy came along and said, I won't work with Trent, then I'll get rid of Trent. With Trent sitting there. What?
Yeah. So my point was they looked like a dumpster fire, but now it's like, well, they found Liam Cohen, who looks like a star.
Right.
And they brought in Baselli, and they brought in Gladstone, and it's like, maybe they're fine now. But it didn't seem like the right process at the time. So who knows?
But also in this world of nobody knows. I think part of the thing is that being a head coach, being a good head coach, quote unquote, is so dependent on other things that it changes. Like, it's not like this guy is just permanently good or not. Like Bill Belichick. Is Bill Belichick a good head coach? Honestly, we don't even know anymore because Tom Brady, it turns out, is able to move the needle enough for anybody to go from bum to hero, right?
So let's go through that. How many head coaches who were attached to an elite quarterback had success elsewhere? Sean Payton might be the guy that's bucking the trend. Because you could say, so Mike McCarthy had Aaron Rodgers, and he had success in Dallas, but he had Dak, and you could almost look at his winning percentage, and it's almost like the difference between how good Rodgers and Dak was, right? Belichick's record without Brady is horrible. It's like 450 or something like that.
Right.
Including 4-8 in the SEC.
He's an average at best coach without Tom Brady, and yet he will go down as the greatest head coach in the game's history. And we genuinely don't know where he falls in that spectrum.
And he deserves some credit for finding Brady and develop whatever. But at the end of the day, he hasn't won without him, right? So the point is, if you're hiring a guy because he had success, and the success involved elite quarterback, Brian Daboll, he developed Josh Allen. He'll develop XYZ. Well, did he? Didn't work. Bill O'Brien was maybe the one other guy that had some level of success who was attached to Brady. Obviously, McDaniels, nothing. Charlie Weiss, Romeo Crennel, nothing.
Yeah.
Matt Nagy from Mahomes. You've got Peyton, and Peyton's like the one guy. Drew Brees, system quarterback.
It's all. It's all a long way around to saying, ultimately, you've no real idea whether a guy is going to be a good head coach or not.
Everything's
and again,
a long
it
way
may
of
be
saying
dependent entirely on what the roster has. But even with that giant caveat, I can't really construct an argument for why Matt Nagy would be a good candidate. And again, this is where I'm like hypocritical and talk out both sides of my mouth. Like,
yeah, but I also don't know.
I'm all for talking to everybody, right? Like, why not? Why not have an interview, sit down, ask the guy some questions, and see where you think, right? I would. Like, the Jets took a ton of crap last year for, like, talking to everybody, right? Why not? Why not have the conversation? What harm does it do, right? Have the conversation. Maybe that guy's going to blow your mind with the stuff he's got, the ideas he's bringing to the table. And you're like, oh, look, I would never have come to this conclusion if I hadn't even asked the question. My point being, I'm all for talking to everybody. But, again, I do not really understand why you're like, I need a list of 5 candidates, and somehow Matt Nagy's on that list.
First off, chat mentions Andy Reid, which I think he's probably the best example and a better example than Belichick of winning everywhere, multiple quarterbacks, elevating multiple quarterbacks, and then you get Mahomes, and it's like, all right, now you're a Super Bowl champion.
And Shanahan.
Right? Yes.
Without the Super Bowl.
The other, what was I going to say? Something else that just came up that I was going to respond to.
Jets, talking to everyone.
Yeah. You should talk to everyone.
I think so.
I mean, I like the idea of talking.
Now, I
was going to say Dan Quinn was the interesting one. I know they're coming off a bad season. We'll talk about him in a couple hours. But Dan Quinn, for me, a second chance head coach, what I would want to see, Dan Quinn had success in Atlanta and it ran its course. He had success. Then he goes to Dallas. He has success as a defensive coordinator again with a whole different scheme, with a whole different system. So you see some growth in his game, and then he gets another chance as a head coach. And in his first year as head coach, he goes to the NFC Championship and elevates a Washington team that had no business being there. That is where I would want to see the second chance head coaches. I know it didn't work in year 2 for Dan Quinn, but that's what I would want to see, right? A guy that had previous success, some level of success, got better in between in a coordinator role, and then you say, okay, tell me what you've learned. But winning with Dallas with a different scheme from what he had before shows me growth mentality from Dan Quinn. That makes sense to me. To put a bow on the Arizona Cardinals, though, I think it's similar to it's like the Giants, but without the quarterback. You could say there's a nice nucleus there. Still believe in Marvin Harrison Jr. You got the great Michael Wilson over there. I think they drafted some decent defensive pieces in Walter Nolan and Will Johnson. So there are some pieces there. Couple, Paris Johnson at offensive line. There are some nucleus type players to build around, but you just got the whole organization. You got a tough division. You have a quarterback decision to make and all that.
Yep.
Great. It took us an hour and a half to rank 7 jobs.
Easy.
Now we're gonna touch on some quarterback. So people that are coming back. Touch on quickly so far. Bengals announced everybody's back.
Everybody.
I thought for sure they would do something on the defensive side of the ball
for the second year in a row.
But Zach Taylor's back. Now, they fired Lou Anarumo last year. They brought in Al Golden. The defense looked worse this year. They're convincing themselves that they played better down the stretch, which is true, but, does that matter? So they're bringing everybody back in Cincinnati.
The Bengals are fascinating because, again, it's like in this world of process versus results and all that, and do you need to make a move just because things didn't go well? Like the Bengals, if you read the statement, I don't know if did it come specifically from Mike Brown or is it basically just ownership?
Mike Brown, I believe. Sorry to interrupt. Well, Duke Tobin's going to speak this week. Like they're going to have like an end of the year press conference, which they don't normally do. Anyway, carry on.
If you read the statement, I think that came from Mike Brown. It's entirely reasonable. Like Mike Brown's statement is basically, these guys have already shown they're capable with basically what's been there already of taking this team to a Super Bowl, being competitive in the Super Bowl, almost winning the Super Bowl. Like this is the team, this is the group to build a championship caliber roster. And yeah, last year went badly. Obviously that was under expectations, but that doesn't mean that they stopped being the right people overnight, right? That's fair. That's entirely reasonable. That's a good argument, in fact, against this idea of knee-jerk, it was bad, therefore somebody's head's got to roll, right? I actually respect that as an idea. And if you've looked at the situation, you've evaluated things, and you've come to that conclusion, cool. The problem is that runs up against the Bengals' reputation for just basically doing things the cheapest way possible, right? And I know they spent last year on players and, brought the band back and all that kind of thing. But institutionally, this group, ownership group has a reputation for being cheap. And one of the ways you can be cheap is not firing people, right?
Yes.
And so that's the thing. It's like, what he said is entirely reasonable, but do you take it on face value, or do you say that's just a way of dressing up being cheap? Because Renner posted this. Like this, they had Marvin Lewis out there for like 16 years of never winning anything. And it's like, this is what they do. They don't fire people. They keep a cheap roster and a cheap organization around them, and they don't spend a lot of money on this. Like, so I struggle to give them too much credit for what I would otherwise defend as a very reasonable, measured, and actually sensible way of doing things, because I suspect that's not the real driving force here.
The Bengals hate paying dead money.
Yes.
To players or to coaches.
To anything. Yeah.
Right. They hate paying for someone that's not there.
Not unreasonably. I mean, that would annoy me too if I was paying out. Like if I'm the Raiders and I'm paying $50 million next year for people to not work for me, that would piss me off.
I understand. But one of the advantages of one of the ways to manipulate the cap, though, is to pay dead money when you need to, push money around, and they tend to not play those games as much, and certainly not with coaches. So the Bengals are running it back, top to bottom here. The Colts are as well. I don't know. Well, they're at least at the top with Chris Ballard and Shane Steichen. We've talked about this a little bit. I don't know if there'll be other staff changes or whatever, but ownership, the Irsay girls came out. The daughters. Wow. I have to be way more respectful to my future bosses here. The Irsay, the new ownership, Irsay's daughters, all came out and said, they're basically saying, we tried new things. Here's what I found interesting. Did we talk about this the other day, that Irsay Gordon was encouraging Chris Ballard to be more aggressive? Like, she was not the driving factor, but it was like her nudge to give up draft capital for Sauce Gardner, to be more aggressive. So we'll see if that continues here. But they saw enough growth. They convinced themselves that they saw enough growth in the first half of the season with Daniel Jones that they want to give it another shot. But expectations are high. So this feels like a do or die season for the entire regime here.
Yeah, that's basically how they framed this. Is like, look, we've decided this is, again, the right group, but next year is like, we need to see it next year. If we don't, then we'll make changes. Which again, I think is reasonable. Now the problem with that is, like, the Daniel Jones thing was already kind of an unknown heading into this offseason. It's a way bigger one now that he got hurt and we didn't get to see what the stretch would look like down, the back end of the season. Like, their only possible sort of hope is they re-sign Daniel Jones, which itself is not going to be without difficulty. And he backs up what he did at the start of last season and, doesn't regress. Like that, I mean, that's kind of the situation they're in. That has to work now.
The one thing I know I've said this a ton on the show as well. The one thing about Chris Ballard, I saw Jeff Schwartz mention this, and a lot of people are like, how is this guy still here? I think Colts fans are upset with Ballard generally. 8 years, right? Going on 9. And I just, maybe I'm too nice. I have empathy for him not solving the quarterback situation, because that's usually the criticism. You haven't solved quarterback in 8 years.
Yeah.
All you tried, and we've gone through this a million times. Luck retires. You've got Jacoby Brissett for a year. You got Wentz and Matt Ryan and all these different things. What would the alternative be? They were always drafting middle of the pack. What was the creative solution for solving quarterback? And I haven't looked at Ballard's record. It's probably right around 500, right? The Colts? Because a lot of people are like, well, what about Geno? Like, Geno and the Seahawks. The Seahawks found Geno Smith, and the Bucs found Baker Mayfield. And I come back to the same thing. They're about 500 quarterbacks. They're like right around 500. Like, so Ballard had this revolving door of couldn't find a guy. When he finally had the number 3 pick, he took the third quarterback off the board.
Yeah.
Or fourth quarterback off the board at, the third quarterback off the board at number 4. Like, what should he have done at quarterback?
I feel like it's just a less intense version of the Andrew Berry conversation. It's like, this is a pretty good roster and has been for most of the time he's been there, but they haven't been able to fix quarterback, which is obviously the most important thing. And the one, like the biggest swing he took at it was drafting Anthony Richardson, this complete project who hasn't worked out at all. So it's like, where do you fall in that in terms of the net positive or negative here? And again, I think a reasonable place to be is we'll give them one more year, see if they can make it work with the quarterback who doesn't get hurt this time. And if not, people will will be fired next year.
We're going to unleash all these takes throughout the offseason. Repeat it. We're in repeat ourselves for the next 9 months territory, but it'll be fun. Mike McDaniel and the Dolphins GM search. Supposedly, Mike McDaniel will be a part of the GM hiring process.
Yeah. And PFT commentator had the tweet of, first question, how do you feel about firing me? Which is pretty funny.
It's a fair question.
It is. It's an entirely fair question. But a bizarre, kind of weird dynamic. And also, that people were like, well, Miami's the team that's calling about Harbaugh, right? As the guy, the team that's interested in upgrades at head coach. I sort of feel like Mike McDaniel might be on a lot firmer footing there than anyone's thought the whole way along. He might actually be completely safe and has been all the way, and they just determined that Greer was the problem. They've changed GM, and Mike McDaniel's he's not in danger.
There are some Niners, personnel involved in there.
Right, half the list of people they're looking at are
connected with McDaniel, right? That have a history there. So maybe he is perfectly fine. It always fascinates me though. This happens in college a lot, where the senior captains are involved in interviewing the next head coach and stuff. It's like, well, you're not going to be here in a year.
Yeah.
Why are you even involved?
That's the flip side. Maybe everyone's just reading way too much into that, and it's not going to stop them firing him.
Troy Aikman involved as well, hired as a consultant.
Good for Troy.
Need more of these consulting jobs here. The other questions, so in the playoffs, we still have Sean McDermott with the Bills, Matt LaFleur, Mike Tomlin.
Mm-hmm.
If there's one and done for any of those coaches, could we be talking about them in a week?
Todd Bowles.
Todd Bowles, as of yesterday, I don't believe he had really met with ownership yet to go over everything. So they said changes are going to be happening on the coaching staff. I don't know if that means on offense. The defense is the part. The part with Bowles is the defense has become stale.
Yeah.
The defense is the part for a couple of years now. You just don't trust them in big games against good teams, and that's his side of the ball. That's his baby. That's where, and he hasn't changed much through the years. So that's where it's a little iffy. See what happens, if anything comes about with.
And it does feel like,
Todd Bowles.
Who knows how to read into this kind of stuff. It kind of feels like he's checked out as well. He's not.
I was sensing. He sounded really frustrated. He's usually
not just frustrated. It's not even because frustration can be fine. I'm pissed off with how things are going. I'm more animated. He just felt defeated. He just sounded bummed and annoyed. Being. Yeah. It just sounds like
different.
It
sounded different than previous years.
So I could see him definitely being on the hot seat. Tomlin, I think if he loses bad, I think is potentially still in real trouble. Sean McDermott is interesting because if they don't, I don't know how much. Again, I think they've been in this tough spot of self-evaluating where they've been the last few years. I don't know what ownership thinks about this narrative of it's now or never for Josh Allen and the Bills. Because I think that's bullshit, right? But they might not. They might believe that. They might think, if we can't win without Patrick Mahomes and blah, blah, when are we ever going to do it?
I think I tried to make this point a little bit earlier. I think I'm of the mind if a simpleton take shows up on a Shouty show or whatever, it's more likely to be attached to an owner than it is to I'm just going to assume that the owner thinks something similar. So when the Shouty shows are like, this is it for Josh Allen, ownership's like, yeah, this is it. If Josh Allen if we don't win this year, we got to change everything.
Right.
So I could absolutely see ownership having the most simpleton views that show up on TV.
Because the problem is, again, I think the Jags are maybe the best team in the NFL right now, and that's their next opponent, right? But they're the Jags, and they don't have the pedigree of Kansas City in the last 5 years. So everyone else is like, the Bills have got to go and win this game. If they get,
I think it's the best game. It's the most compelling game this weekend.
But my point being, if they lose to the Jags in the first round of the playoffs, to me, that's basically entirely expected right now, right? And yet that will be treated as an institutional failure in Buffalo this year and a complete disaster because because Mahomes and Lamar Jackson and the contenders were not in the playoffs this year.
In the Jags.
So does that narrative, even if it's ridiculous, cost Sean McDermott his job?
There also, I think there are Buffalo people who think there might be, they might be looking into some tension because it seems like every time Sean McDermott is complimenting another team, like you mentioned, Jacoby Myers, really nice addition for the Jags, really opens up that offense.
They're not backing me in the transfer market.
Yeah, right. It's like, is there some tension because the roster construction thing for Bean and McDermott is it's a good I still think it's a good roster. with a couple holes, right? You're going to start nitpicking because you're trying to win a Super Bowl. So anyway, we got a lot to talk about still. Where the heck? Where are we going? You know how fast NFL game days move. One big play and everything changes. That's why live betting on FanDuel. It's a game changer. With FanDuel, you can bet in real time while the game unfolds. Score just flipped. You can jump on a new spread or a live money line. That wide receiver's heating up. You could bet the next touchdown score or total yards. Think that drive stalls in the red zone, or you could take a live field goal prop or fade the total. Live player props, team totals, drive results, updated spreads, next play markets. It's all there. It's fast, it's fun, and with FanDuel, your live bets move as quickly as the game does. So whether you're riding the momentum, fading the hype, FanDuel puts you right in the middle of every moment. Visit FanDuel.com/33rd. Download the app, bet the NFL live all season long. Must be 21 plus and present in select states. For Kansas in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 plus and present in D.C., Kentucky, or Wyoming. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. Paid endorsement. And today, we're going to throw a prop bet out there for this weekend. Saturday afternoon, Rams at Panthers. Bryce Young, over under 190.5 passing yards in this game, Sam.
Yes. Now, when they beat the Rams the first time around, he cleared that number, but it did require, number one of his better games of the season. Number two, an absurd number of fourth down, improbable, ridiculous passes, which I'm going to assume are not repeatable, even though that's kind of where he's been at his best this year. So my default assumption will be the Rams defense is too good, and he will be under that number.
These games are interesting because it's a rematch against a heavy favorite. I have a feeling the Rams hurt him.
What was the number, by the way?
Not physically, but like.
Yeah. What was the number, did you say?
190.5.
190.5. So he's been over that number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
I think the Rams
7,
defense gets after him.
7 times this season, but 4 of the 7 have been over it by like 4 yards.
Yeah. I'm going to go under. I think the Rams get after them this weekend. Angry Rams in the rematch.
Revenge
I'll take
game.
the under. FanDuel.com/33rd. Go check it out.
Look at this. We're almost exactly an hour off schedule.
That's beautiful, which means it's perfectly time for the Wednesday update.
Now it's time for the Wednesday update, brought to you by the Cincinnati Bugler.
That's just the music we need for that. We don't actually need the earpiece.
We don't need them yet, but we will need them soon. So maybe it is time to.
We can fire through this. Just, none of this is real news.
The Lions have fired offensive coordinator John Morton.
Yep. I mean, Dan Campbell took over his job halfway through the season. There wasn't an awful lot left for him to do.
So not surprising there. We thought, so there are rumblings that they might try to steal someone from Chicago, from Ben Johnson's staff. We'll see what ends up happening there. Look, it was one of the biggest offseason stories. Like, how important is Ben Johnson?
Yeah.
And a lot of people assured us, well, John Morton's, he's an offensive genius too. Well, it didn't work out.
And then Dan Campbell was.
And then Campbell took over play calling halfway through the season.
Yeah, I mean, that's, again, sometimes these decisions, like both sides of it end up looking bad for you. Like, there wasn't anything they could do about the Ben Johnson thing, but Ben Johnson is looking great in Chicago, and the guy that came in to replace him has not worked out. That's the worst of both worlds for the Lions.
Cowboys have fired defensive coordinator Matt Eberflus after a record-setting season for futility.
Now, did they get into the full organizational self-evaluation, or did they get that done before?
Maybe they did the defense evaluation
like
first.
The first half of it.
Yeah, that was the start.
Yeah,
we haven't gotten around to everything else yet.
Because the Cowboys, we were saying, do this sort of like let's take a beat, let's exhale from the season, and then we will do like a full, corporate organizational self-evaluation before making any kind of rash decisions, right? Which on the one hand is, reasonably laudable, I guess, as a process. But we were saying there are some things I think that you can probably get done before diving into the nitty-gritty and deciding, is this where are we? Is this 49, 51%? Which side do we come down on? There's some things I think you can say, I know what the report is going to spit out before we get there, And Eberflus was one of those.
I watched the defense all year. I had a feeling that they would show up poorly in our extensive
So
review.
they eventually went that way.
So 4th defensive coordinator in 5 years for the Cowboys, and I know they're talking about, go get Brian Flores, and go get these big names, and it's like, is that even feasible?
Well, Flores out of contract in Minnesota. So this is the thing. Flores is now this very interesting name where he didn't extend his contract, I think, at the same time as other people in Minnesota. He's technically out of contract at the end of the year, and his name is coming up in a lot of places. I don't really understand necessarily why he would leave Minnesota to go to a different coordinator job, but you can paint a picture. The obvious one involves the quarterback. Like, J.J. McCarthy showed very little this year to be confident in. Meanwhile, Dak Prescott had the sort of quiet MVP caliber season that no one mentioned because the Cowboys didn't win enough games. But, like, if you're Flores and you're like, I will create a really good defense, and if you give me a quarterback on the other side of the ball to work with, we're cooking. Flores could easily convince himself that Dallas is a better chance of winning things than Minnesota is. It's also, if Flores is interested in the limelight and money, maybe Dallas is a place to go. Now, look, the Wilfs pay as well, so maybe the money thing isn't. But, Dallas is a destination. Plus, it's cold as balls in Minnesota. Dallas has got to be better.
Just because it's cold? Well,
I don't mind the winter, but have you spent a winter in Minnesota?
No.
Minnesota winters are different. Different, right?
Oh, yeah, I'm not interested.
Like, I for a man that doesn't have any hair, right, I appreciate it gets cold as crap when you don't have hair.
Flores is bald. He's trying to get to Dallas.
Look, when you lose your hair, the cold hits different.
Get me to DFW.
It is a different
this anymore.
world when you do not have hair and it's cold outside. And if you Minnesota winter with no hair, it's a completely different prospect. So, look, I can imagine a world where Flores is like, I'm done with that. I'm going somewhere else.
The Minnesota people, we should have Matt Collar. We should have Collar on the show here soon anyway. But the Minnesota people suggesting that he's got some level of personnel power on that side of the ball. Maybe more than most.
That's the thing. Like, that defense is crafted in his image right now in Minnesota. That's why I don't really understand why you would leave. Like, they have built that thing for Brian Flores, and it's going really well at the moment. Do you really want to risk going somewhere else where you might not have that level of say and just simply not be able to replicate it? See, look, that man's cold in the winter.
He's not built for Minnesota.
Nobody's built for Minnesota winters, but you're especially not built for them if you don't have hair. His, at least, I judge him by the stubble pattern. His at least seems to be a voluntary baldness. Look at that. See that? I feel like that's different to me. I don't have a choice in the matter. He, I think, could at least build himself some insulation if he wanted.
Should consider it. The Commanders have fired offensive coordinator Cliff Kingsbury, defensive coordinator Joe Witt Jr. Joe Witt Jr. had already lost his play calling duties to Dan Quinn. The Kingsbury one, there were rumblings that this could happen.
Yeah.
He was pretty good last year with Jaden Daniels in year one. Dan Quinn suggesting the hurry up and maybe not running the ball enough is not what he's looking for.
Yeah, sounds like there was a disconnect between Kingsbury and other people within that building. So
there's something about Kingsbury's offense, and it's not just, the receivers don't move. There's something about it where
which changed, by the way, like that did.
Which has changed, but I kind of get it. Like, I do feel like his offense was good for a while for Kyler Murray, then it ran its course. I don't think we got to really see that play out this year because of Jaden Daniels' injuries.
Yeah.
It's a strange thing because they do like to run the hurry up. It is true. I think the hurry up probably affects the defense a little bit. But yeah.
And this was a mutual parting of ways, apparently. As opposed to a strict firing.
Mutual party.
Now, that sometimes is just the way they frame firings, but this does genuinely sound like it was both sides decided, you know what, this isn't going to work.
Like I said, Kingsbury's interesting because I don't know. He hasn't had more than 1 or 2 years of success in a row, right? It's been a bit of a roller coaster ride. But he's also had, sneaky good run games, even though Dan Quinn's saying, hey, I wish you would run the ball more. It's like an interesting dynamic.
It's also that feels like it's often the case for guys that come with an extreme version of an offense somewhere. Like, it's kind of like Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly's never really had success beyond spurts, right? It comes where it's really good for a couple of years, and then it runs its course, and then it's really good for a couple of years, and then it runs its course.
Chip Kelly it was 2013 and 14. He had Nick Foles statistically playing out of his mind.
Yep.
And then in 14, he got the best statistical season out of Mark Sanchez. That was enough to convince me, something's here. And then that fell out. And I was convinced that Sam Bradford, when they got him in 2015, who I always believed in, would take off. And then it just stale, got fired. He also got personnel power too, always confounding variables.
Yeah.
But honestly, Chip hasn't had a great offense ever. other than Ohio State last year when he had, some of the best personnel. So, yeah, Kingsbury's out. I don't know, man. I don't know who's knocking down Kingsbury's door to bring him in. Like, would he be a fit in Tennessee?
So he'd be
Cam Ward?
I mean, I don't really understand the conversation around Matt Nagy, but Kingsbury's absolutely somebody I would want to talk to. Like, if I'm an owner looking for the next hire, and I'd be definitely intrigued in an interview with Kingsbury. I'm not saying I'd hire him, but I would want him on my short list to have in the building.
I would definitely have the conversation, either head coach or offensive coordinator. I don't know. I don't know, man. I just haven't seen it long term with him, and if I would trust that or not.
Mm-hmm.
What we got here? Panthers have activated the great David Moore off IR.
Yeah, which ended up, that was the flip side of that is they cut Hunter Renfrow.
Yeah. But David Moore was like the number one receiver for Bryce Young at points last year. He could be the key here.
Mm-hmm.
Could be the key. Titans Cam Ward, he did get hurt last week, remember, but his AC joint sprain in the shoulder reveals there's no surgery required.
Which was initially
as serious as we thought.
It was initially reported as a grade 3 sprain, which is like the worst type. And then I can't remember who reported that, but it's subsequently been revealed to be much less severe than that.
Travis Kelce is still undecided on retirement, which apparently is a news item here. I'm just reading what's in front of me.
Cool.
Russell Wilson announced that he played through a torn hamstring before he got benched for Jackson Dart.
Now, this is funny for a couple of reasons. Number one, because it's in that world of like it's spin season, right? Like, I got to put it out there that actually I wasn't as bad as I looked because I was playing through something. But number two, because if it's true, it means that the Giants lied about his injury status and didn't put it out there.
He said he didn't tell the Giants.
I know, but the point is that gets them into some trouble.
It doesn't, though.
It doesn't. It gets them investigated, put it that way.
If the player doesn't disclose, like if it never came up.
It's going to be looked at.
Which is difficult, but if you tore your hamstring.
Right.
And you never got treatment for it. You just, because you go into the training room, it's like, hey, could you just, could we get some stim? Could we get some stuff on my uninjured hamstring here?
It certainly gets the Giants looked at from the league, which is, kind of funny given the way they treated him this year.
I played through, it must have been a torn meniscus or something, all last season. All off season, I should say. I did 8 months of shows with a bad knee.
Oh, with your big swollen knee?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I played through it. But I wanted to get that out there. If you felt like, hey, maybe my performance wasn't as good, 8 months. Big swollen fat knee.
Yeah.
Played through it. Feels better now.
Good.
But,
Next.
Rams wide receiver Devontae Adams with his hamstring expected to return against the Panthers. That's a factor this weekend. We'll preview every game tomorrow, by the way. That'll take 6 hours, too, for 6 games. DK Metcalf refuses to comment on his fan altercation, ready to return for the playoffs.
Yeah, that's probably smart.
I have a link here.
This is what I'm excited about because I heard about this. I didn't see it.
I'm going to watch it.
So read me the read me
the news bullet says woman went viral for squatting Trevor Lawrence at a bar.
I swear to God, if this video doesn't show up. There we go.
There it is. Oh, she sure did.
Yeah.
She put Trevor Lawrence on her back and squatted him.
There you go.
How does this conversation start?
Right. How does that come up?
I could squat you. Hey,
Prove
Jack's quarterback.
All right.
Shouldn't Trevor Lawrence be studying his playbook? What's he doing out there?
I know.
Why is he at a bar?
Doesn't love the game.
Ohio State wide receiver Carnell Tate's entering the NFL draft.
Good.
Just a lot of people going to the draft.
Mm-hmm.
But we've got one.
Yeah.
One
specifically.
The NFL has posted their best regular season average viewership numbers since 1989 per Sports Business Journal.
Isn't every year the highest average viewer number?
And this also, you're not at like the mercy of Nielsen anymore. There's 900 streaming services.
Oh, yeah, you can fudge the numbers
you
really
can manipulate
well
this great.
Yeah.
You could start counting like social media views if you want. You can do whatever you want. Average of 18.7 million viewers.
What happened in 1989?
2025. 19 million in 1989. Huh?
Yeah. That was my year in Minnesota.
That was your year?
89.
When we were 7?
Yep.
So we that was coming off of Montana beating the Bengals.
The Herschel Walker trade?
Super Bowl. That was 90.
It was that offseason.
89 to 90?
89, 90 offseason.
I'm just thinking what happened 88 to 89. So 88, the Niners beat the Bengals.
The winter of 89 is what we went through.
Yikes.
Up in Minnesota.
Brutal. 89 Super Bowl was Broncos 49ers, where the 49ers crushed them. So we didn't even read what happened. That's the last time. The 19 million average viewers in 1989.
Yeah.
Interesting. It's like the peak of watch TV from home and you can track it well, I think. All right, we're going to do roadside assistance time. Quick break to talk about our friends over at Root Insurance. Root Insurance believes that good drivers deserve better rates, so they've created a new kind of car insurance that rewards good drivers in an easy-to-use app. Traditional car insurance companies focus on demographics like age, zip code, occupation, and credit score to price your coverage. But when Root offers a rate, your behavior behind the wheel gets more weight than any other single factor. They don't use occupation or education level to negatively affect your rate. While you drive, Root gathers and analyzes data from your smartphone sensors, and after a few weeks, you get a car insurance quote based primarily on your driving. Save up to 44% off your initial Root quote after you take the test drive. If you need a tow truck, jump starter, you lock your keys in the car, Root will cover the help you need to get back on the road when you opt into roadside assistance. The Root app makes it easy to edit your coverage, update your policy, or file a claim in just 3 minutes. You can get started today at Root.com. And today, Sam, we're providing roadside assistance for the Detroit Lions, where Dan Campbell says, quote, "We underachieved. I'd give myself a freaking F," end quote, when asked to grade their season. The 9-8 Lions.
Yeah. I mean, an F
now, in
feels
2022,
harsh.
they were 9-8, and it was like, wow, the Lions are on their way.
Yeah. I mean, an F feels harsh, but they did underachieve. I mean, I think that part is reasonable. I think the concerns people had about the team heading into the season both proved to be fair. The lack of Ben Johnson, what impact would that make? I mean, the lack of both coordinators, I guess, but the lack of Ben Johnson in particular. And then the offensive line not being as strong as it has been in previous years. And that's been in part because of injuries, but also because of just the step back in personnel. I think that is an issue.
So I'm going to probably have this take all offseason. The Lions are in as good a shape as anybody in that division going forward, right? I know the last thing we've seen here is they're finishing 9-7. It's disappointing, and the Bears look better than them, and the Vikings just smoked them on Christmas. The Lions still have a good nucleus to build around. My concern here is going to be the offensive line, because that was a concern this year. Tate Ratledge, as a rookie, I think he'll be okay. They had some issues at center. It's just, football is such a fascinating game, Sam. We always talk about the quarterback and the impact they make. Absolutely true. But when you get things like Frank Ragnow, and when he was healthy and playing, and active, we'll say, in the on-off splits with Frank Ragnow and what this offense looked like with and without him, or like the Rams last year with Kyron Williams, like those guys should not make as big of an impact as they do. And it's usually not going to stay over time, right? It's not consistent over time. But clearly, when the Lions had issues, they were getting beat up front. Couldn't run it when they needed to. Pass protection breakdowns. So center, left guard, and then Taylor Decker, again, talking about all of the injuries, everything he's gone through, 10 years into his career. Are they going to have to replace him at left tackle? I think it's an offseason for them of getting back to the trenches, particularly this offensive line. That's when they're at their best. Yeah, they have to figure out play calling. They got to figure out how important it was that Ben Johnson left the building, and they lost some institutional knowledge that they need to replace here. Didn't work in year one, but man, that offensive line is going to need some reinforcements.
Yeah, I mean, Penei Sewell, I think, was as good as ever at right tackle. As you said, Ratledge, I think, will be okay at right guard. Left guard was a revolving door. Left tackle may need to be replaced if Taylor Decker is going to call it a day. And then center, I don't think Graham Glasgow is particularly good at center. Maybe you move him back to guard and just work on fixing the center spot. That's sometimes harder to do in the draft. Like, centers don't tend to start right away. So, yeah, there's some definite work to do. It could be put back together pretty quickly, I think. Like, it's not, oh, man, this thing is a total overhaul. It's going to take years. It's like, you could fix this offensive line, I think, reasonably quickly, but you do need to get the right players, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, come back to this world of they do have so many stars. They have so many people making $20 million, $25 million plus, with Aiden Hutchinson, coming up, and Jahmyr Gibbs coming up. I mean, you got a lot of big names still coming up. You've already locked up a bunch of players, more money to be spent. So I think they'll do what they can. Jack Campbell, that entire draft class of 23, they got to figure out when they're going to.
Hutch already signed his extension.
So Hutch is fine. Sorry, my bad. But a combination of they're already paying more to pay from re-signing their first 4 and 5 year players, but they have to figure out the O-line for me.
But the good thing for them, though, is that they're the right players that are signed to the big money contracts.
Yes.
They've got quite a lot of them, but they're the guys that you would want to have the money from a team building roster construction standpoint. So it's not like they have money tied up in stupid places and then they've got contracts coming up, at more key spot. I think that part of it is kind of okay.
All right. They're going to be okay.
Yeah.
They're going to be okay, Lions. You're going to be okay, Lions fans. We're going to remain optimistic about the Lions this entire offseason. I'm getting hooked up here. Very professional, just like Chris, unzipping his pants and putting his mic up his pants on.
Don't do that
on draft night. I won't do it. It's just an IFB. It's Shouty Show time. Let's do it.
I've thought about it very deeply.
I liked how he started it with, I've thought about this long and hard.
I trust the backup quarterback more than I do Dak.
This is why Skip Bayless is the master of the Shouty Show segment.
I can't do it anymore. It is year 6.
It's just a never-ending arms race of idiocy between loud, obnoxious people. We are the antidote to that.
I can't believe this first one. We have Emmanuel Acho to kick things off here.
Stefanski didn't get fired because he can't coach. Why do we all know that? Stefanski's on one of the top lists for every coaching vacancy. He also didn't get fired because he can't coach, because he proved he could coach in Cleveland every year except for 2, one of which had Shador and all these other coaches, all these other quarterbacks. So Stefanski got fired because he couldn't get along with the quarterback situation and with Shador. So the next coach has to be able to get along with Shador. Otherwise, what'd you fire Stefanski for? He's a quality coach. He just didn't handle Shador quality.
He didn't handle
What?
Look, half of that diatribe was perfectly sound. He's right that Stefanski is a good coach, that Stefanski wasn't fired because of those things, and then he jumped the shark and went to somewhere stupid, shockingly. He was fired because they just decided a sacrificial lamb had to be, bloodletting needed to be done at the end of a bad season, record-wise. It's got nothing to do with Shador. Nothing to do with Shador Sanders.
It's the same thing as John Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson not getting along. Same thing.
People are going to be shocked. Look, the inference there, right, is that whoever comes into this job is going to be dealing with Shador Sanders as the starting quarterback in 2026, which is just not the case. I would imagine there's very, very little chance that Shador Sanders is this team's starting quarterback week 1, 2026. So whoever the new head coach is immediately going to say, hey, kid, thanks for the work. You're going to be the backup now, and we're going to see what he can do, right? That's the extent of your can you get along with Shador thing is can you say you're the backup now, let's go, right? That's it. He's the backup quarterback. He's not a factor in firing the head coach or not.
How did so many people land on, I don't know, man.
Because he didn't go out of his way to be like he did. Because most people, including us, started with the default assumption of Shador Sanders is better than Dylan Gabriel, right? Even though the Browns themselves basically declared that's not the case. The Browns themselves believed Dylan Gabriel was better than Shador Sanders. That's why they drafted them in the order that they did. And actually thought that there wasn't much chance Shador was good at all, and that's why they passed on him a million times until eventually in the 5th round went, you know what, maybe we're wrong, what the hell, let's just roll the dice. So because people started with the assumption of, well, Shador's obviously better than Dylan Gabriel, and maybe they were all right, and so far that's what it looks like. But the point is, they expected the Browns to act like that all along as well, even though that made no sense logically based off what the Browns clearly thought in the order they drafted them in, right? So the whole way when Stefanski is giving Dylan Gabriel some time or talking about him and not really talking about Shador Sanders, that's just straight disrespect to this kid who's out here obviously the best quarterback on the roster. It's like,
you're not doing well by Shador.
Right.
I think he had the lowest ESPN QBR of all time or something. Really? Oh no, among Browns quarterbacks of all time.
I mean, that's still a pretty low. Look, I think the people that are Shedeur fans are correct in terms of it looks like he's the best quarterback on the roster right now. Where they're wrong is he's still likely the backup in 2026. And they're like the best quarterback on the roster in 2026 is likely not on the roster currently.
Yeah.
So the idea that Stefanski was fired because he can't get along with Shedeur, like nobody gets fired because they can't get along with the backup quarterback.
What I don't understand is how former players land in the, like if this take came from like a random media member who just, doesn't know ball.
Yeah.
I kind of get it. Like how do
you know 100% how it manifests?
I know how. I know.
Emmanuel Acho is doing the mental calculation of Shedeur is the most polarizing, like clicks. Shedeur Sanders, we know this. Shedeur Sanders generates clicks more than any other player in the NFL. So if I manufacture my instant reaction to Kevin Stefanski being fired has got to involve Shedeur Sanders. Otherwise, what's the point in even doing the content? That's what he's doing.
All right, let's go to Cam Newton up next.
Oh, God.
I'm going to say yes, and I'm going to tell you why. This is what was told to me early in my career. A quarterback is only as good as his kicker. And now when you start to unpack, a quarterback is only as good as his kicker. When you start to see certain quarterbacks get us in position, you do all the heroics, you get us to that point, and you miss the field goal, all that's for naught. When you start to also realize, like, we're waiting for Lamar Jackson to come show up. We're waiting for Lamar Jackson to come show up. Don't lose it. Oh, now he takes over a game by making plays or extending the plays, and guys around him starts to make plays around him. The Isaiah Likely catch was absolutely ridiculous. Mm-hmm. When you start to see Zay Flowers, absolutely ridiculous. Then defense, I need you, baby. To see what transpired yesterday almost gave me the same feeling when Mark Andrews dropped
last year.
The pass last year. So when is it where can we honestly say, hey?
Yeah, I mean, all right. I think there's a kernel of truth in that. Like narratives can change.
Kickers can
legacies can change based off whether the kicker makes his kick or not.
I agree. To a point.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't,
You're not truly only as good as you.
Like Tom Brady may have had a career with like 4 Super Bowls if his kicker sucked, but he still probably would have been Tom Brady and gone down as one of the greatest ever play. But does it change, so does it change his legacy 4 to 7? Sure. Does it stop him being Tom Brady? No, not really. So again, there's a kernel of truth in there.
A kernel from the cartoon cat. Let's go to Jeff Saturday, former Indianapolis Colts head coach.
Yeah.
Because every mock draft, and I mean, I live in this as much as anyone, and we have one this week on First Draft, which will drop tomorrow. Every mock draft is going to have the Raiders taking a quarterback at number 1, whether it's Fernando Mendoza or maybe Dante Moore goes crazy in the rest of the playoff and surpasses him. But Jeff Saturday, you were shaking your head because you don't think the Raiders should do that.
No, absolutely not. Listen, you have a lot of spots on this football team that need to be bolstered before you think about bringing a quarterback in. We talk about more quarterbacks are ruined in the NFL. Yeah. This would be that situation. You're going to go into a bad offensive line. What do you expect? What are your expectations? This is a rebuild for this organization as a whole. I think trading the pick, adding to it, get some players around you, build the foundation of this, and then allow the quarterback to come in and make.
It's not the hottest of takes. It's not like a crazy hot take. I've been meaning to study this one too. How many quarterbacks had the infrastructure ahead of time? Remember when C.J. Stroud was drafted, we thought he went into a really bad situation?
Right.
And then in year 1, it's like, actually the receivers look a lot better.
Yeah.
And you're making do with this offensive line.
Yeah.
Usually it's because the quarterback's good.
Yeah. So this is what I think is kind of funny is I think you can make an argument on either side of this, right? And so because I think you can make a very reasonable argument on either side of this, I think anybody putting their flag down and being like, this has to be the way it goes is automatically dumb. Because I think if you can't see both sides of this, of all things, then what are you even doing? I think there's a perfectly reasonable argument for the Raiders to say, let's build the thing up. Let's go. I mean, we already talked about it. It's going to be a long-term thing there potentially. Let's build this thing up. The offensive line was in bits. But I think it always, before you do anything, depends on two different things. Number one, who are the quarterbacks available and what is your evaluation on those guys, right? If you believe one of those two quarterbacks that they mentioned is like all-time special, then you take the quarterback. It doesn't matter if the situation is garbage for a while. We're seeing that with Drake May. As you said, C.J. Stroud immediately turned what looked like a bad situation into something a lot better. If the guy is special, you can probably get through a year, right? And then the flip side of that is, what is the offer to move off, right? Assuming this is, my assumption would always be I'm trading out rather than picking at one and not taking a quarterback.
Yeah.
So the second part is, what is the offer on the table to get out of here?
That's where the Bears trade was really interesting, because they could have taken Bryce Young at number 1 or C.J. Stroud.
Right.
Now, if they took Bryce Young, I don't know, like the wind, throwing a little Bryce's arm outdoors in Chicago, would they have taken Stroud? Would you rather have, if you're the Bears, one C.J. Stroud, or what they ended up doing, which they lucked, it's a luck too, but like they landed on Caleb Williams.
Right.
You got DJ Moore. You got Darnell Wright. Like, you still had another second rounder, I think, in there as well. Absolutely.
But to me,
the balance sheet is way in Chicago's favor after the fact.
But to me, this conversation is always like 55-45 in one direction or the other. So the trade-off for the quarterback available, that's moving more than 5 percentage points in one direction or the other. So again, the idea that like you have to always, at every time this comes up, you must build the infrastructure first is just a ridiculous take. Equally, the other side of it is a ridiculous take as well. Always draft the quarterback. Doesn't matter who it is, because that's how you get Kenny Pickett. Like, I need a quarterback, therefore I must draft a quarterback. Like, none of this argument is never 100% in either direction. It depends on the quarterback, depends on the offer, which we don't know yet, by the way. Like, even if you've made, let's say, and this is not the case either, let's say you've 100% done your evaluation on the quarterbacks and you know how good they are. Nobody's putting an offer on the table yet. So you don't know what the counter is to that.
I would have been interested if Tennessee had taken the haul last year.
For Cam Ward.
That's like the one time I would say maybe you take the haul is if you're still pretty confident you're going to be bad next year. And I was pretty confident that Tennessee, with or without Cam Ward, wasn't going to be good. I'm pretty confident the Raiders in that division are at least a year away. That would be the argument maybe for taking the haul. Is like, we'll still be picking top 5 next year. But what if we had all these other resources and next year's QB draft class might be better? Like, you're always looking ahead, right? But maybe that's the argument to do it.
Yeah, I certainly, again, I don't think there's anything wrong at all with the idea of making that case. I think the only thing wrong with it is making it with that degree of certainty.
All right, we have a fun little update here. Our listener bets, our preseason bets from listeners. We received and did we accept all of these?
I mean,
we at least read through,
I assume, based off their bets.
70 different bets before the show.
And we had lost 6. That's not bad.
Yeah. So we're going to go through, at some point we'll go through all of these and tell you if you owe us coffee. But these are people that won, and then there's one more I wanted to highlight as well. There were a lot of Lions-hating predictions that came true.
Yeah.
From our listeners. So our preseason listener bets, for those who are new, we always say, instead of criticizing us, put your money where your mouth is, right? If you're going to say, oh, you hate my team, you hate that, go ahead and make a prediction. Make a bold prediction, a proclamation even for the season, and do it before the year. Put your name to it. And we offered up, check the mic merch, and we suggest, we nudge you in the direction to maybe put up some coffee, put up, what are you going to put up? So we took a bunch of these, 70 or so before the season. Angel and Sean both predicted the Lions to miss the playoffs. They both win. Sean gets some merch, but they both win this one.
Yeah. So
Angel will donate to Promise to Kids charity. So that was what, I think that's if we lose. I don't know. But he's going to do that if they win.
We had the one person that suggested that we make a custom shirt for these because we were sending out merch to anybody who wins a bet.
Oh, I want to check the mic bet.
Luke there, the Steelers winning the AFC North. was saying that the shirts should say,
I'm
smarter than Sam or Steve, or I outbet Big Goofy and
We
Grumpy.
should get those. Where's Harrison? We need to get those shirts built.
Well, the question is, does everybody want one of those, or, is it only him? Like, should that be the bet-winning shirt that we just send out to everybody?
Oh, yeah, I think so. That's a good idea. I liked that idea. The other one I just wanted to mention quickly, Drew, because Drew keeps posting the clips on Twitter, and I think he deserves something for this. He had
the parlay.
Yeah, I think we had some staggered, results here. He had the four leg parlay. I'm losing my words. Chiefs missed the playoffs entirely.
Yeah.
Lions missed the playoffs completely. And then it falls apart. Packers win the division. Matthew Golden and Emeka Ibuka both with 1,000-yard seasons.
Yeah, what are those?
Yeah.
Ibuka got to 1,000, right?
And the Packers were on their way, man, for a while. So I was impressed by this. So I think we said we'll give you a prize. Like, I think we said, if you get a couple of them, we'll give you
938 for Ibuka. He didn't get to 1,000.
So he was close. He wanted a spot on the show. Yeah, but I think we said we'll give him a shirt. If he gets a couple of them, but like if you get all four, like we were gonna bring him on the show and everything.
Yeah, if you'd hit that 4-leg parlay, that would have been pretty spectacular.
But Drew deserves something.
The first two of them are still pretty good. Yeah.
So I would add him. Drew deserves a shirt.
Okay.
I'm gonna write a note here. Send
just taking money right out of our pockets
to Drew. That was good though. But he's promoting us on Twitter. He's showing all of his preseason bet that we announced on the show. So Drew deserves a shirt for that. Because that's bold. Saying the Lions and Chiefs are going to miss the playoffs.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do that.
Very.
I would not do that. Roger America picked the Jags to finish with a better record than the Lions.
Yeah.
He didn't wager anything, though, so he doesn't win anything. No, I'm just kidding. We could still send a shirt. Roger America, congratulations on your win. Jags over the Lions. James N. suggested that Caleb Williams will break the Bears' single-season record for passing yards.
I didn't realize that cost us a T-shirt at the end.
Did we? There's no way we would have accepted that in a 17-game schedule. And today that he was going to pass Eric Kramer. Yeah. Maybe we did. Samax 2599 says the Patriots will have 3 800+ yard receivers.
And they
this
did.
Year.
Wow.
How about that?
Huh.
Who ended up over? Was it
Diggs, definitely.
Henry, and Douglas?
Diggs and Henry.
Not Hollins.
Did Booty miss too much time?
Booty.
Did he miss too much time for that?
I don't look at receiving stats.
No, me and Ben Stockwell were talking about this in Week 18 when Scott Hansen was all banging on about every record that could get. He was like the passing leader and the rushing leader and the tackle leader, which apparently is the thing.
They didn't have 3 800. I was going to say. It's Stephon Diggs over 1,000. Hunter Henry at 768 was number 2. Booty was at 551.
I didn't think Booty had made it there. But we were like, it made us realize that we didn't. We have no idea who's leading most of these categories.
Listen, I only read what's in front of me. We'll go through all these though. We'll have a show where we go through all of them.
That question, it throws the integrity of the entire thing into question. Who knows if any of these are right now?
Will just did a copy and paste error. There's probably other ones that won. Who knows? We'll go through them though. But like this guy, I'm just looking through it really quick. Ryan suggested, does he deserve something for this? Ryan suggested the Denver Broncos win the AFC West, bold, and that the Chiefs finish last in the division.
You keep saying that. Like the last, you can't give credit for anyone that said the Chiefs will finish last. You want to give credit for like
the fact that they had 6 wins and finished 3rd.
But we're a mile away from last because the Raiders suck.
I get
that's part of the evaluation. You can't get partial credit for that.
When someone loses this badly, the Giants will make the playoffs. They'll sweep at least one division opponent. Dexter Lawrence, Defensive Player of the Year. Abdul Carter, Defensive Rookie of the Year. Giants lead the league in sacks.
Yeah.
And that they all combined for 40+.
Yeah, that didn't go well.
The big-name players. We'll go through all of
them. We had a couple of emails in that made it clear. This is the reason why the late-night show is not always a great idea. We were wondering what the what an almost Urban could be. You know,
Yes.
Urban Meyer's 250 rushing, 250 passing equals good day of offense, and we couldn't come up with an almost Urban, even though suburban is right there that we did sitting there right in front of us, and neither one of us could see it.
Who had the suburban the other day?
I don't
The Rams.
But anyway, multiple people shouted that out. John sent an email in. Somebody else sent an email in. John is apparently a public school band teacher in Toledo and was tickled by remember the conversation we had about how slurs is part of violin playing, but is also something else. And that I found that funny.
So you liked that?
You like that?
I was gonna say. So I was gonna make this. The band leader at my school was named David Bailey, and he's now like the best pass rusher in the draft. So I'm having a tough time connecting the name of our band leader, who wasn't the most athletic kid growing up. Like I played against him in Little League, and like I think I hit him in the head once. Couldn't get out of the way. I felt really bad.
If you want to send us emails, check the mic at the33team.com is the email address. So
email season.
Yeah, email season.
And then we're gonna do. Do we have anything else? I got some breaking news here.
Oh yeah.
Do we have anything else? I have some breaking news from lost it. Pete Thamel, ESPN, College Football Insider. Really quick before the breaking news, did you know that Jason Garrett's interviewing for the Titans job?
I did know that, yes. Okay. This is what I'm saying. Tennessee, again, in this with the caveats that nobody knows who's good or not.
Wide net.
Right. Nobody knows who's good or not, and also the caveat that I have no problem talking to everybody. The Tennessee Titans are talking to multiple people that I do not know why you would pick up the phone and call them.
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
Carry on. Pete Thamel reports, as of 28 minutes ago or so, Alabama quarterback Ty Simpson is turning pro. He just informed the Alabama coaches of his decision. This is an interesting one. Ty Simpson, 1 year as starter. By mid-season, it looked like, all right, this guy's a dude. He's going to be good, but he doesn't have experience. His performance tapered off quite a bit down the stretch. Not a lot of good games down the stretch, in some big ones against Auburn, Georgia, Indiana in the Rose Bowl before he got hurt. And then he was rumored to be considering, because they have a 5-star pushing him at Alabama, that he was considering transferring. That he was going to be, well, maybe Oregon wants him, maybe Tennessee wants him, maybe he goes somewhere else for his final year of school. But he's going to turn pro. I think he has top 10 potential. I don't think he's a slam dunk top 10 player. So we have Ty Simpson in, we have Fernando Mendoza in, and Dante Moore, I think, now leaning toward being in. Those are the 3 probable top quarterbacks in the draft. So a draft that goes from 2 potential first-rounders to 3 potential first-rounders outside of, who knows, Trinidad Chambliss, who knows what ends up happening. But it's news that there's another quarterback available in a lot of QB-needy teams.
Now we have a minute countdown to our members-only.
We starting it now?
I believe so.
All right, 1 minute countdown.
Takes a minute.
We will... so we're wrapping the show up every Wednesday. As long as we remember, we're going to do a little Q&A for members only. So we're going to do a little countdown right now. We're going to wrap up this show. Everyone else, reminder, tomorrow, 9 a.m., previewing the 6 super wild card weekend games.
And then when we hit 20 seconds, we'll get the countdown like a regular show.
20 more seconds of...
That's only at the end of the minute, so sometime around now it's going to kick in. But who knows?
The countdown's going to happen.
This is different to the way it was with Burmeister. You know, with the thing in his ear, it was just like, it's perfect. We're just like vamping, hoping that eventually there you go.
And now are we back?